think?
Go ahead. What are you asking, Barry?
Man, I have a lot of junk. Do you think that I should have this more like there and I can show them?
No. So what I'm going to do is during the opening, during the tech check, I'm going to come in here.
Oh, okay. That's
Okay.
good. That's better.
And then when we go offline, I'll just put it all right here. You don't need to touch it.
That's good.
Screen's on, or stream's on. Hey everybody, and welcome. Welcome back to the live event workshop. This is Blue Melnick here, and we are just doing our going live tech check. And we've been calling it a couple different things internally, the tech check, the are we live, does everything work, you know, can you hear me, things like that. So do me a favor, if you can actually hear me, put in the chat to the right of this window, yes, I can hear you. But more importantly, tell me where you're watching from. We love seeing all of the different countries that are here, all the different states here in the United States. If you're in Canada, what province you're in, things like that. Tell us where you're from. We've had people from South Africa, from Australia, from Ireland, from England. We've had people from Brazil. I saw somebody from Mozambique, I believe I saw. Lots of different places from New Zealand was here. We had South Carolina, somebody just around the corner from us. I had somebody from Quebec, somebody from Ontario, that's Canada, for those of you who aren't sure. We had somebody from the West Coast, so lots of different people. So really excited about tonight's presentation. Barry is going to be going deep on the blueprint. Now, the blueprint is how the live event is structured. Now, in training number 1, we kind of went through the 3x3 PAG. Now, that's a very, very simplified version of how a 3-day live event is structured. Today, she's going to go a lot deeper, 4 levels deep, in fact, into what the 3-day structure looks like and how you can implement it in your business to create profitable events. All of this, of course, builds on top of the training number 2, which was the high ticket offer creation. So both of those are available via replay if you haven't had a chance to watch them, either at the end of the training tonight or over the weekend. If you want to capture that information, you go on over right above this video. Actually, you can see a link to class 1 and class 2, or training 1 and training 2, and you can see a full replay of what took place during those first 2 trainings. So make sure you do that. Lots of great information. Tonight's session is going to be even better. Now, a couple really quick technology things. If you can hear me twice, if you hear a little bit of an echo, there's a solid chance that you clicked on the link in your email twice. You may have me open in 2 tabs. So double check to make sure that you don't have me open in 2 tabs. Easiest way to do that, shut down your browser or just look through the tabs and see what's there. Other things, this is a live video broadcast, so it's pretty bandwidth intensive, although we do our best on our end to make it pretty easy on your end. But if you do have any applications like Dropbox or Google Drive or Microsoft's OneDrive, stuff like that, syncing applications that perhaps take a lot of bandwidth on your computer, try to turn those off. If you're uploading videos to YouTube, try to turn those off. If you have kids playing on the Xbox or on the PlayStation in the living room, try and get them to play something that's offline. That would help during these sessions. Anyway, just a couple of tips to help keep your bandwidth relatively clear. We are about 7 minutes from going live, and I'll see you back here probably in about 2 of those minutes, and we'll keep talking. We'll talk to you soon. I'm going to check out in the chat, see where all of you are from. So my team just looked at me and said, it's time to nut up or shut up. And it took me a second to catch the reference. Truthfully, in the end, I didn't catch the reference. The team said, yeah, it's from Zombieland with Jesse Eisenberg and Woody Harrelson. And apparently there's another one coming out. Anyway, that's what we're doing here. We've got Anne from Ireland joining us. Carlos, day 3 in a row. Welcome back from Rio de Janeiro. Maureen is tuning in from PA. Welcome. Celeste is here from Tampa Bay. So wherever you're from in the world, be sure to type it into the chat. Love to see that stuff. I actually want to show you something. We got into the office a little bit late today. And, well, Barry and I were up late last night putting the final touches on today's presentation. And when we came into the office today, we came into something really cool. This is just a little bit of something, from our team. So they know that Barry likes a Jack and Coke. I don't mind one either. And she really loves Junior Mints. And there was a little card here that said, "You were mint to do amazing things," which kind of made me smile. Isn't that kind of cute? And then cheers to an amazing presentation. We love you both, the Sage team. So folks on the Sage team, thank you very, very much for, well, putting up with us over the course of these couple of days. It has been one heck of a ride. I hope you're having a good time. We mentioned yesterday this is the first time we've done that or done this, and lots of positive feedback. So thank you. Keep it coming. It definitely fuels us, allows us to know that hopefully we're providing some value and you guys are getting a good amount out of this presentation. Now, we're going to be going live probably in about 2 minutes for real. Barry is just putting the final touches on her hair. So when we do go live, make sure you say nice things about her hair. For me, there was very little that I could do about my hair. I rode the One Wheel to work today. If you don't know what that is, Google that later. One Wheel, one word. Anyway, we are about to get started. We're going to be going through the live event blueprint today. It's a ton of amazing information. Make sure you have a pen and piece of paper ready, or your favorite note-taking device, whatever that is. Technology-wise, we have a few new things in store for you on tonight's broadcast, so keep an eye for the new thing at the end of it. Let me know if you can spot it, and we will see you in just a couple minutes. Bye for now.
Hi there, everybody. It's Barry Baumgartner, and I want to welcome you back to the live event workshop. If you are a speaker, an author, a coach, an influencer, an internet marketer, somebody with a membership site, somebody who's launching, someone with a digital course, any of the above, this workshop is for you. This is all about getting your live event done using the very same structure and strategy that we use to generate hundreds of millions of dollars for our clients over the last 15 years. We have been creating leverage in their business by building out the back end for a much more robust, less risky business model. We've been doing this in every market niche in every corner of the world that you can think of. So I hope you're excited. I'm super excited. I can't wait to get started. third training in our series, the Live Event Blueprint, and I think you are going to love it. If you missed the first two trainings in our workshop, I highly recommend that you go watch them. You don't have to do it right now. I want you to stick with me, but they really are required viewing for anybody who wants to jumpstart their business or expand their reach through the power of the live event model. We are live right now, so stick with me for some awesome actionable insights, and then you're going to go back and revisit training number 1 or training number 2 so that you have the full picture. I promise you it's worth watching, and it will add a lot of depth to the insights that you're going to get tonight. Also, before we get going, I just want to give you a quick reminder, just in case you missed it. On Wednesday, I announced a new training to support some of the in-depth questions that we've been getting. I want to personally say I can't thank you enough for all of your messages and insights and questions. My team and I have been poring over them, and I'm already seeing some frustration. Some of you want to go deeper. You're ready to get going. You're ready to take some action. And some of you have even asked us how you could hire us right away to implement some of the ideas that you're learning in these trainings. And as I mentioned on our last training, sadly good for us, sadly for you, our calendar is 2020 is completely full, and 2021 is filling fast. And here's the thing, truthfully, I don't want you to wait. I want you to be taking action now. That was the point of this training, because if you do take action now in 2020, you could already be enjoying the time and money freedom that comes from selling one to many instead of one to one through the power of a live event. And by 2021, you could already be running a multi-million-dollar business just by stacking live events, just like one of the clients that I'm going to introduce you to tonight. So, the truth is, it pains me when I have to turn an entrepreneur away, because I know that our systems and our strategies are the key to a faster, easier path to making more money and to having more impact, to really living your life's purpose in a much bigger way. And recently, actually today, I had to have one of those conversations with a woman that I've known for years. We've been following each other, and she keeps saying, when I'm ready, I'm going to hire you. And she's finally ready to embrace the live event model. But right now, there's no way to fit her into our 2020 schedule. Those are not fun conversations to have. And the thing for me is that I've known from the beginning, I don't want to be an event factory. It's just not my vision. I love being a boutique firm that puts on a small number of events a year. But I hate when I have to let someone down. And so since I can't take you on as a client, for the first time ever, we are introducing a new training that we designed just for you that goes super deep, step by step, showing you exactly how to do all of this in your business. So while you can't get us walking you through this by the hand right now, this is going to be the next best thing. I hate saying no, and while I can't create the space in the calendar for you to work with us individually, I'm really committed to step-by-step instruction and live interaction to help you harness the power of live events in your business. This way, you'll be able to get on our virtual calendar and get all of your specific questions answered about your live event by me personally. So, for those of you that want to, we have something really revolutionary, something that we're going to be introducing next week. In fact, you've probably noticed a fourth training scheduled for Monday, August 12th that we just added to this page on Wednesday. For those of you that want to learn more about how to put the power of live events to work for you, I want you to join us on Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern for a bonus training session. Make no mistake, I am still planning to share tons of awesome content on designing your program tonight. It's one of my favorite topics. We're going to be talking about how to build on the high ticket offer training I did on Wednesday, and I've even added some fresh content to tonight's training to address some of those questions that we saw you post over the last couple days. But the truth is, serving is in our DNA, and much like I've been teaching you, I want to over-deliver on our promises. You're a right fit client, and I want you to be raving fans. I want you to be served on the deepest level. I've been reading your comments, and I hear you. Most of you are super afraid of filling the room. So we are going to demystify that on Monday night's call. So filling the room, something we keep getting questions about, that's going to be on Monday. And I know for some of you, you want to go deeper and keep the momentum going. And some of you are just going to be happy with where tonight's training takes you. You don't want to keep going. And that's all good. But I highly suggest you join me on Monday, because we're going to be adding some awesomeness to tie all of these trainings together and to give you a plan for using live events to scale your business in a much bigger way. So make plans now. Join us on Monday at 7. So here's what I want to talk about. I'm going to get into teaching right away because we have a lot to cover tonight. This video is all about next steps. It's about you moving forward. And I believe that my job this week is to enroll you in the belief that you can do this, that you can have a bigger vision for your future. And with the plan of action to get you there, your success is all about taking action. That's all it takes, is taking action. So today it's about helping you see how you can take the ideas I'm giving you and put them into action right away so that you have real momentum from being with me this week. No lost time. In this video, we are going to be walking you through all of our live event plan, what we call the live event blueprint. And I'm going to walk you through the structure that I have been innovating over the last 15 years. I've been testing it again and again, evolving it with every single live event we do. We strategize over 30 events a year, so every week is kind of an incubator for structure and strategy, both macro and micro. We're focused on big picture strategy and the little nuances, putting those together so that you can enroll your audiences in working with you beyond the live event and ultimately jumpstart the needle in your conversions. Today, for the very first time, I'm going to be sharing this version with you in an easy to follow PDF. You're going to get it later tonight. It's going to be available to you later this evening, like probably really later, right after we have a bourbon and Coke. And I know that this could be, for you guys, I know it's a little bit overwhelming. There's a ton of information here and it's super detailed. So please don't be intimidated. It's all about taking baby steps and it's about progress, not perfection. And the thing is, I didn't get here overnight, and you don't need to do it either. You don't have to know all of it, you don't have to learn it all, and you don't have to do it all. But I wanted to put it all in one place so that you can pick the parts that apply to you. And I'm going to show you how to do that tonight. I also want to give you a warning that I'm going to be moving really quickly tonight. I am not going to cover every piece of the blueprint in great detail. We have a ton of ground to cover, and time is already growing short. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's do this. Okay, so in the first training, the very first one we did on Monday, I know that feels like eons ago, but on Monday, we did the 3x3 PAG and we covered the ACE model. And this is basically me sharing where I was when I started Sage, when I was first running a multi-speaker event. And when I first decided to commit myself to testing out ways to get super high conversions without that icky feeling. And what that led to is me figuring out and kind of discovering that my natural instinct to serve people hard meant that I could sell them easy and still keep my integrity intact. And this simple discovery led to the multi-seven-figure referral business that Blue and I have today. In the second training on Wednesday, I gave you the Big Why exercise, and that's all about uncovering your high-ticket offer. We even gave you a bonus, 17 additional ways to monetize your live event, because I know this is true. When the macro is clear, the micro is easy. And I shared with you how back in 2004, my first husband's business imploded unexpectedly, and that led me to start Sage. But what I didn't share with you was how it happened. At the same time that I got fired from a soul-sucking job that I literally dreaded going into every single day. I didn't know it at the time, but it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, because without being fired from that job, I would have never gone out on my own and started Sage. I do not come from an entrepreneurial family. I would have never done that on my own. I don't know what I would have done, but I was so desperate to find a way to bridge the gap in our income, and I couldn't find a job doing what I wanted to do, and I thought, if I'm being really honest, I thought that there's a chance we were going to lose our house. And doing something I loved and that I was super passionate about at the time seemed like the fastest path to cash. The interesting thing is that single act of hanging my shingle out there and kind of stepping, being forced out of the relative comfort of a job, led me to realize that every single job I've ever had, from failing as a little girl selling Girl Scout cookies, total nightmare, to learning the upsell in my first beach rental job as a teenager, to discovering the difference between being an event planner and an order taker, led me to understand that I had a pretty unique approach to live events with high ticket offers. And I would have never predicted that the very same fear of sales, that same fear of feeling slimy at the back of the room, would actually lead me to create a revolutionary way of closing sales from the stage and from the back of the room. I never would have guessed that my inherent OCD, and I'm super OCD, and my natural propensity to always ask why, I'm always asking why, and always putting strategy first would actually lead me to create a strategy first approach. And that strategy first approach led to me standing out from my peers in a super crowded marketplace and getting referral after referral from client after client and niche after niche, going from 0 to $1 million, getting them to go from red to black. That's how my business grew. Now that we've done as much as 15 million in sales in a single weekend, I know that the strategy first approach puts the rush in the right place. It's not a rush to fill the room or to Frankenstein an offer together. It is not a harried stampede of people racing to the back of the room who don't even know what they're buying. It's not that. No, what I'm talking about is the rush of excitement when you fill the room with right fit clients. The rush of adrenaline when you nail your offer with integrity and without being salesy. And the calm that comes when you see your right fit clients rushing to turn in their deposits for your program, trusting in you and your ability to change their lives with your unique ability. So there's no more of that spaghetti sales strategy, which is really no different from just throwing spaghetti against a wall and seeing what sticks. And when you do that, you're leaving your live event success to chance, when really all you need is the structure and the strategy that I'm sharing with you here to get right fit clients, paying you to become raving fans with real success without compromising your non-negotiables. We talked about that as the big why, and that's my big why, to transform the world of live events with the message that you can do good and do well. I want to help authors and speakers and coaches and marketers and online introverts who think that you have to be beautiful and thin and perfect to be on a stage, or you think you have to be a great speaker or have a huge list or have a perfect offer. I know some of you think this. I've been seeing you post it, and it's keeping you from hosting your own live event. And I want you to understand right now that none of that matters when you have the right structure and the right strategy. That's what I'm passionate about. The driving force in our business is to help every speaker, every author, and every online marketer to become infinitely more successful with infinitely less risk and have infinitely more impact by adding the offline power of a live event to their online business. I know that together we can transform the world. This is my big mission, one live event and one high ticket offer at a time. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. You know, the reality is, if you follow me at all, you know, I have a pretty great lifestyle and we have a great income. I am super lucky to have clients that I love and a business that really fulfills me, that I get to work with my husband to fulfill. But what gets me up in the morning and really gets me out of my comfort zone, and here's the thing, my comfort zone is actually being behind the stage, not on the stage. It's part of why I'm great in stage event management, is I love being the second fiddle. I love being behind the stage. But coming to front stage like I am tonight is all about growing my impact. And it's all about serving people that I could not otherwise reach. We are super blessed to have a calendar this full, I know that. But at the same time, it's why I'm so inspired to share this live event blueprint with you so that you can do it on your own. Because by now, I know you know. You know you need to host a live event. And you know that every successful online business, every successful brand does better with a robust back end. Events give you momentum because they're the multiplier for getting more sales without having to get more leads. And when you have a structure and a blueprint that does not rely on the game of chance, not relying on spaghetti sales strategy, then you have the confidence to go out there and play a much bigger game. So one of the things I'm going to be covering tonight in the live event blueprint is the sales is service through line. One of the reasons the blueprint is so powerful and so effective is that you don't have to get it perfect. You can absolutely make mistakes as long as you follow the blueprint. If you follow the formula and you get the core strategies right and you approach everything through the sales as service lens, you can actually make mistakes. You don't have to get everything perfect. It's like my client Shanda Sumter said on our last training on Wednesday, your offer doesn't have to be perfect because this model is so forgiving. Because the sales as service approach builds so much reciprocity, it so deepens the relationship, and it so increases the trust with your audience. You can actually afford to make mistakes. And between us, that takes a huge amount of pressure off of you and your team. So here's the thing, of course our clients make mistakes. As they grow into their most confident self on stages and they begin to offer their one-to-many programs, they're not perfect. But with the live event blueprint and that sales as service through line that we've been talking about, we've got you covered. It's so much easier. So there's no reason for you not to get out there. At the heart of the sales as service mentality is connecting you with your audience and delivering huge value. It's about finding out what people really want and giving it to them in a non-slimy, non-salesy, high-integrity way. And it's also super effective and makes lots of sales, all while you create huge impact for you and your audience. You don't have to sacrifice that. So we're going to get started taking you through the live event blueprint. This is what the 3-day live event looks like at the highest level. And for those of you who want 1 days, I know you're out there, some of you are talking 2 days, stay tuned. All of this is going to tie together tonight. First, I'm going to be focusing on the core concepts that give you the most leverage and that keep coming up in your questions over and over again. Specifically, I'm going to be addressing some of the comments and questions that we've gotten this week. I've been trying to read all of them, but there's so many coming in over the last 48 hours, I have to admit, I'm falling a little bit behind. But that said, I think the team has been working together and I'll be able to cover most of your questions tonight. The core foundation at Sage is that we use 4 levels to plan your live event, going from that macro view to the micro view that we've been talking about. So tonight we're going to start with a 10,000 mile overview, looking down at the macro view, and then we're going to zoom in on each level below that. If you think back to that analogy of how we fill a jar, first the rocks, then the pebbles, then the sand. The same thing applies to the live event. That same principle applies here. That's what we're doing here as I walk you through the levels. So the first level, level 1, is the 3x3 PAG. And for those of you who've been asking about what is a PAG, it's a program at a glance. We covered this in our first training. If you think about it, program at a glance, it's exactly what it sounds like. If you haven't watched that first training, I recommend that you go back and take a look when this video is over tonight, or enjoy your Saturday doing that. It sets up the framework for the 1-day and the 3-day model. Everything we teach in that 3x3 PAG applies to both of those. So that super macro view, that 3x3 PAG, is all of the macro view, high-level overview that you need to understand. It's the journey that you're taking your clients through in a 1-day or 3-day live event. Super big picture. Next, level 2, we're going to zoom in a little closer. This is where we start to layer in the content, module by module. We're playing off the 3x3 structure to deliver amazing content, connection, and community on day 1. And by day 2, this leads attendees to start asking you how they can work with you further. They're asking you before you sell them. And by day 3, they have committed to do deeper work with you, and they're celebrating the start of that journey with you at that welcome lunch we talked about. We are going to show you how this same content can condense to a 1-day with very little effort, and I'm going to share with you why we don't believe in a 2-day. More on that later. Level 3. Now we're going to go into even more granular detail. Now we're getting into some of the advanced concepts that add depth and complexity to your event as you grow your event-based business with the 3-year and beyond monetization strategy. Not right here, all the way out here. Not just how we're making money today, how we're making money next year and the year after that. Here is where we start to add things like speak to sell spots and sweeper offers, fundraising for your favorite cause, breakouts, pre-event bonus sessions, VIP programs, coaching zones, live streams, retail, upsells, downsells, cross-sells, all those little things that come into the live event model. And I'm going to share what event hosts get really wrong when they Frankenstein their event. It can be tragic to just model what you see without understanding the why behind why we structured it that way. It can actually jeopardize your offer and undermine your confidence and actually get you to abandon the live event model when just a simple tweak would have totally saved you, totally saved your offer, totally saved your conversions. That's tragic. So we're going to fix that tonight. And for level 4, this is the last level, listen up. This is the foundation that everybody needs to know. It's the biggest thing that people get wrong about offers. It's the simple structure of the 3 most important sessions out of the whole 3 days or the whole 1 day, the 3 most important sessions that lead to effortless offers and higher conversions. I'm also going to give you the one statement, just one statement, that can save the sale from the back of the room. And last but not least, we're going to weave in that sales is service through line into every level. At every event, sales is service is in the DNA of what we do. It's woven throughout everything, which is why this works. It's why even if you make a mistake in your offer or your content, it still works. The sales is service through line is there to save you time and time again. So there's a lot here. I know that. And to go over everything in detail would be hours and hours and hours. So I'm going to be moving quickly, but I'm going to cover the highlights you most need to know to grasp the model and to understand that a 3-day live event is actually easier to produce than you ever thought possible. And it takes way less content than you think. A lot of you get tripped up on that. I can't do it. I don't have enough content. I was just having a call with a client about that today. You have enough content, and I'm going to show you how. So I have made it super easy with the download that you're going to get later. After tonight's call, you can download the blueprint. You can go through the details at your own pace. Here's the thing, listen to me on this. Really, really important. I want you to fight the urge to take tons of notes. You can always go back and listen to the recording with the PDF in hand. I want you to be fully present to really understand how all of these pieces fit together. It's going to be easier if you're paying attention than if you're taking prolific notes and fretting that you missed something. And then that PDF is going to be an awesome cheat sheet. It's going to make it super easy for you to refer back to and put this model into play. Okay, so now that we know where we're headed, I'm going to do a deep dive into each of those levels that we just talked about. And by the way, I think in a couple of these trainings have said, like, have your computer ready, have your notes ready. I'm telling you not to do that, just as a reminder. But I do want you to type questions into the chat. As I'm talking, if things bubble up for you that aren't super clear or that are freaking you out or that are keeping you stuck, I want you to put that in the chat. One, it's super helpful for me and my team to know. Two, it's going to make you feel better to get it out there versus fretting. And three, it's great for our online community to see that they're not alone. My guess is any question you post, there are hundreds of others out there that are having that same question and are breathing a sigh of relief that they're not alone, that they're not the only one. So tonight, much like in a live event, it's all about connection and community. I want you to be connecting with each other and connecting with our team and letting us know where you really are so that we can meet you there and make sure that you're getting the content and the support and the answers that you need so that you can take these ideas and put them into action. All right, so with that, level one, we're going back to level one, and now we're going to talk about it in more detail. So the 3x3 PAG that we went into in the first training, if you haven't watched it, again, just a reminder, I'm going to keep saying this because it's a foundational teaching that we gave you. And if you skip that part, you're actually skipping something considerably huge that is going to help all these dots connect after you hear tonight's call. So all of these were designed to stack on top of one another. You don't have to abandon listening to me tonight, but you do want to go back and listen to it so that you can start to figure out why that's so important and how it factors into what I'm going to be teaching tonight, why it's the framework of a 1-day and a 3-day. I'm going to run through it really quickly for you in a nutshell, so if for some reason you didn't see it, you don't feel left out. And for those of you who were with me, you don't have to go searching through your notes. We're going to go through it really quickly right now. So as a quick recap, the 3x3 PAG, Program at a Glance, this PDF is posted. Day one is all about content, connections, and community. It's about basically taking your content and you put it out there so that people are having tons of aha moments, and they can't wait to get home. They're having so many great aha moments that they're immediately thinking it's time and money well spent. That's the content piece. The connection is feeling connected to you and to the room, but most importantly to their higher selves, to their sense of what they can do. And then the community piece is that they feel a sense of community with like-minded people. We go into that a lot more detail in training one, but content, connection, and community are the bedrock of a live event, and they are super important on day one. On day two, we start to get into pain, solution, and invitation. Now that the attendees know where they want to go, there can be a considerable amount of pain around not having the tools to get there when they get home. It's like, I've seen my higher self, but I know I'm going home tomorrow, and it's scary to think about getting home and doing it by myself. The solution to that is your invitation. And the heart of that is only you can do the work, but you don't have to do it alone. We say that all the time at Sage, which is the heart of your high ticket offer. You can go back and revisit training number 2 on the Big Why exercise for a refresher on how all of that works. And again, the Big Why, I'm telling you, every single client does this exercise with us, even if it's a repeat piece of business. We start with Big Why, and we're using that to frame that offer that ultimately becomes the invitation. So day 2 is pain, the solution, and the invitation, which for those of you out there who call it an offer or a pitch, I call it an invitation. The invitation is the offer. Okay, then day 3 is decision, commitment, and celebration. And this is getting them to decide to take action. Any action, take action, but ideally take action with you by joining your program. We get them to make a non-refundable commitment, not for you, but for them, so that they stay enrolled in themselves. And we get them to celebrate their decision and a welcome to the family lunch. And I really do think of it that way. We're going to talk about this in the deep dive today, but that lunch that we host is a welcome to the family lunch. And that's the sense we want it to have. It's decision, commitment, celebration, and the celebration is that welcome lunch where we're celebrating that they've made a decision to continue forward with you, and they're celebrating that they now have a community of like-minded people to move forward with. So that's level 1 in a nutshell. As a reminder, super macro view. Now level 2. this is where we're starting to fill in those big rocks. This is where we're starting to put in the pieces on day 1 and day 2 that are going to lead you to what I think of is like there's all these different pieces and parts that have to go into the PAG, to the program at a glance. You want to put in the most important ones first. And I actually, again, just had a call today with the client. Like, yeah, I'm booking this speaker, I'm booking this speaker, I'm doing this. Be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Before we do that, let's get our big rocks in there. Let's figure out where you're speaking, the sessions that you most need to do, and then we'll fill in those other parts. So one of the things, I'm going to do a couple things on my iPad here, and you're going to see what a great artist I am. But before I do that, I want to cover one quick thing that is the most overlooked part of your program at a glance. It's not going to be part of what I'm covering tonight, so I just want to seed it with you. The most overlooked part of your program at a glance is setup day. Day 0, what we call day 0. It's the day before the live event starts. And setup day is typically where your general session is getting set up with your audiovisual and your equipment, and the rooms are being set in rounds or theater style, etc., where you're getting your brochures or your binders or your journals out, any kind of welcome gifts you're going to have, all those little details and logistics that make it come together. But here's the thing, on that day, you need to do a team training or a team meeting. I cannot tell you how many people start their event without grounding their team knowing, like, here's our big vision, here's what we're going to do. I mean, ideally, your team has been part of this planning and they know that, but even a team that's been working with you for weeks or months needs to get grounded, and this is the thing that we're going to be doing together. They need to get grounded in your goals. So don't skip that piece. You have to enroll. We talk enrollment all the time. It's not just the attendees. Enrollment is actually your team too, enrolling them in your vision, enrolling them in what they're doing this week, enrolling them in their roles, and getting them excited about it. I think that's a really important part of day 0. For us, we do a whole day. Some clients do an hour. Honestly, as long as you do something, that's my most important wish for you. But you really want to think about form follows function. What do those team members need to know in order to do a great job for you on site and have you not be stressed out about it? And listen, you can start that before you get on site, but at the bare minimum, have that little get together, whether it's lunch or dinner, an afternoon, an hour on site to get everybody on the same page. So that's the thing most likely to be overlooked. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the thing that's most likely to throw you when you're on site. It's this. It's not thinking through what I call the bookends. So if you think about the bookends in a 1 day or a 3 day, it's the start and the end of the event. So 1 day, start of the event, end of the event. 3 days, start of the event, end of the event. How are you kicking off your event and how are you closing it out? Those are the bookends. So that's macro view. Start of the event, end of the event. Then let's start to go micro view. It's the start of each day and the end of each day. And then if we go even further, more micro, it's the start of each session and the end of each session. A lot of you spend so much time figuring out all the content and the speakers, and you get on stage and like, whoa, 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 I never figured out how I'm starting this thing or how I'm landing the plane. So you really want to think about how you're getting the event off the ground and how you're landing the plane at the end, how you're getting the day off the ground and how you're landing the plane at the end, how you're getting the session off the ground and how you're landing the plane at the end. It is, we all often call it stick the landing. If you think of gymnastics and they, ta-da, that's landing the plane, sticking the landing. You want to make sure that you're clear on that for every session, every day, and the end of your event. Okay, so that's that piece. Now I want to talk for just a second about registration. And it's easy to think of registration as like, registration, it's where you pick up your badges. Registration equals badge pickup. I don't think so. At Sage, of course it is badge pickup, but it's bigger than that. At Sage, we really believe that it's having them at hello. If those of you too young to remember Jerry Maguire, but if you remember, it's like we want to have them at hello. It's the importance of having floaters and ambassadors and greeters, people who can talk to people while they're waiting in line, people who can direct them to the right line. And it's also the importance of tagging and ticketing. Like, we're going to be talking on Monday about how you fill the room. And at Sage, that ties into Ticketmap. We're actually going to share the Ticketmap with you on Monday and show you how to do that so we can allay all of those fears. And that ties directly into what buckets and ticket types and how you're tagging. And I have to tell you, all that behind the scenes micro determines how smooth it's going to go on site. And there is nothing worse than a crazy, crazy registration because it's their very first experience. It's the start of the connection, which is going to impact their sense of community and directly impact their conversions. So before you ever get on site, you want to be thinking about that. Okay, Now I'm going to dive into, and Blue, tell me that everybody can see this, yes? Okay, great. So again, brilliant artistry here. So what that is day 1, day 2, and day 3. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how we start to fill this in with the most important sessions that, in my opinion, cannot be moved. Okay, the first one is the opening. Okay, this is kind of common sense, right? You've got to have an opening. You've got to have your opening. Now, when I think of an opening session, this is typically what we advise our hosts to put into it. We want them to have a welcome. We want them to kind of give an overview of the week. We want you to give them host story. And again, this is going to be in the PDF I give you. Don't be making frantic notes. Stay with me. Pay attention. So it's welcome overview. It's host story. You have to remind them why they came to see you. If you think about it, I've done that for you every night in our trainings this week. I don't want to assume that you know who I am and what I do and why you're listening to me. I mean, you should, but there's a chance you've forgotten, especially if you're new to me. Same thing happens with your live event. Think about it. If you ever bring a friend, that person may have never heard you before. They just came on the trust of the friend that brought them. So you really want to make sure you're reminding them why you're the authority, not just an expert, and why they came to see you. I like to have a theme for the live event. So that welcome session for me is having a theme. And I love a theme that I can then seed back to. A great example of a theme, Dean Graziosi used this one. Hope he doesn't mind me sharing this with you. Next level thinking. When we just did an event with him in March, everything was tied into the concept of next level thinking and surrounding yourself with next level thinkers. And it was something that we could tie back to over and over again. If you think about it, we're seeding community from the very beginning. So what is the theme that you're going to have that you're going to weave throughout the event? Then you're going to give them an overview of the week. And here's the key with that. You want to seed all the key moments that you don't want them to miss. At Sage, we never give away what speaker is in what slot because that's immediately allowing people to pick and choose which sessions they're going to attend. And in my opinion, they don't know which sessions they should attend. I know what sessions they should attend. So by not giving them all that detail, I make them happy hostages in the room, and it gives me the flexibility to change things as I need to on site based on the questions they're asking and the pace of their learning. So I recommend never publishing that stuff, but I do recommend giving them an overview of key moments. Like you don't want to miss tonight's reception. You don't want to miss tomorrow's laser coaching. You don't want to miss my keynote the morning of day 2, so be on time in the morning. It's just basically reminding them how to be respectful of you, your time, and their time, and they need to be reminded of that. And the last piece that I like to do in the opening session is I like to create safety in the room. You have to do that. You can't assume it will happen. You have to let them know there's cone of silence. You have to let them know that it's okay to be vulnerable. And you have to do that by modeling it for them, by being authentic, by being vulnerable, and by telling them it's okay for them to do the same thing. You also do it by having them share with the person next to them or share at the mic. It starts to warm up the room and open it up. And I love to do that in the very first session. So this is one of those bookends. It's your opening. And of course, you have to have an opening session. So it's one of the sessions you have to plan for. The next one is going to be the closing. Kind of obvious, right? And for those of you who are thinking one day, bear with me. I'm going to show you how all this collapses into a one day before we go tonight. All of this is pertinent to you. So don't tune out. I'm talking to you too. So for closing, it's all about wrapping up. You want to tie it up with a nice little bow before you send them off and send them back home. Yeah, I like to do a thank you for being here. I'd like to have some ahas that reminds them of what they've learned. It's also a great community builder before they go home. I like to do something that is some element of planning. I call it planning for Monday, but it really depends on what day your event ends. If it ends on Sunday, it's planning for Monday. If it ends on Wednesday, it's planning for Thursday. But the general sense of it is, what are you going to do when you get home? And what you're essentially doing is asking them to think about the next step. Think about it. If we want them to take action, even if they didn't buy, what's most important is to get them to take an action. That will be significantly easier if you force them to think about what's the first action when they get home. And not by mistake, for some of them, that's going to create a whole trigger of oh man, I do not know what I'm doing when I get home. And I do not have the support when I get home. So I really would love to have, a community. I might be buying your offer. It is not uncommon for us, even after we've gone through the welcome lunch and kind of closed out sales, to have additional offers come in as the result of this exercise, because now that they're actually staring home in the face and all the problems they left, it's like, whoa, 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 I really could use some support. And they come to that back table like, is it too late for me to get in? And generally, of course it's not. We want to support them. The last piece of the closing is thinking about whether it's going to be ceremony or celebration. What's the energy of that closing session? Is it celebratory, or is it kind of, a more quiet ceremonial piece? You might even be creating a tradition there, but you really want to be thinking about how you close it out. There is nothing worse than being a host, standing there at the end of your whole 3-day live event and thinking, I don't know how to wrap this thing up. So you really want to be thinking about that. That closing is important. So what you're seeing right there are the bookends that I mentioned to you. Okay, so here's the next 3 most important sessions. So this is going to be Module 1, Module 2. We're going to put in lunch here. Then we're going to have Module 3. Then we're going to have Module 4. Then we're going to have dinner. We'll come back to that in a second. And if there's going to be an evening session, it's Module 5. So you can think about this going across the board, right? So day 1, Module 1, that's how we refer to it at Sage. It's day 1, session 1, day 1, Module 1, is the opening. So day 2, Module 4, is the panel and the invitation. So let's take a look at that one. This panel is to inspire them. The invitation is to put the offer on the table. We're going to talk more about how this works when we talk level 4, so bear with me. And it's going to lead directly into them buying into your program. Not by mistake, this is halfway through your program. If you look at this Module 4 location and you look at your opening and you look at your closing in a 3-day, bear with me 1-dayers, it's going to come back to you. It's halfway through. And this is significant. I always put this here. And listen, over the years, I've played around with this. I've had hosts say, I don't want to be like everybody else. I'm going to do this and that. Never performs as well as putting it right here. It never does. We've tried it a million different ways, I promise you. And it never performs as well as it does right here. And this is why I think it is. They've had day 1 and day 2 to totally fall in love with you, totally fall in love with the audience, totally fall in love with their own ideas of themselves. And on day 1, they're generally thinking, oh my God, I've had so many amazing aha moments. I can't wait to get home and start implementing. But then all those aha moments pile on top of each other. And by day 2, by this point, guess what? They can see the exit point. The exit point is after the closing, I go back home. And you know what starts to happen then? Uh-oh. I don't want to go home because I have so many aha moments and I don't know what to do first. I don't know where to start. So that is where that pain piece comes in. If you think about this, this is content, connection, community. This is pain, solution, invitation. And this is decision, commitment, celebration. That's that 3x3 PAG that we taught you. So right about here is where they're feeling the pain of I have to go home and do the work. And the solution is only you can do the work, but you don't have to do it alone. You know what? I've got an invitation for you. You can work with us, and we're going to help make that easier. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the mechanics of why I think the offer works there and why I think the offer is actually not as important as the heart close. So for those of you who are launchers, think of heart close like cart close, only it's with your heart. I think the offer is all about your head. And I think what some people refer to as the repitch is all about your heart. And generally, we make better decisions with our heart than we do with our head. I'm going to give you a super simple example. Let's say I have a reunion coming up, my high school reunion. And I have this plan. I'm going to go to the mall and buy a new outfit. And at the mall, when I buy the new outfit, I have $500 to spend on my new dress and my shoes. And I go to the mall, and the first store I go to, I find this amazing outfit. It makes me look 3 inches taller and 10 pounds thinner and 5 years younger. Sold. But here's the problem. It's $800, and I only have $500. Can't do it. So I walk around the mall, I go to all these different stores, I try on all these different outfits. My head knows I only have $500. My heart knows I want to look younger, thinner, and taller when I see all my friends. I will find a way to get that $800. I will sell my firstborn child. I will put it on credit. I'll get a zero interest credit card. I will do layaway. I will put it in the car and hide it from my husband, like whatever it is I'm going to do. Like, you know, that's how that works. When your heart really wants something, you will find a way. That is why this heart close is so important, to speak to their heart, not their head. And I'm going to come back to that methodology in just a second. But the bridge between this panel, the inspiration panel, and the invitation and the heart close is the session 5 on day 2, and it is laser coaching. Now listen, some people call it a hot seat, some people call it a business makeover, life makeover, launch makeover, launch debrief. There's a million different ways to do it. But the heart of this coaching that night is to show them how good you are at what you do. It's to demonstrate your mastery that they can't find anywhere else. And the general thinking on that night is, man, if she or he could do that in 5 minutes or 15 minutes, imagine what a whole year with them would be like. So if I'm debating joining you for the invitation, and then I see your mastery, like one-to-one, you take a question, solve it. Take a problem, solve it. No problem. I can't find that anywhere else. It's your unique ability. I want to be with you. I'm much more likely to join that night. But the thing is, some people are just not ready. Blue likes to think of it like an elevator. Some people are ready to jump on and take it all the way to the top right away. Those are your first responders. And other people are going to take the stairs. They're going to need to take some of their time, right? We know that for some people that night, they have to call a spouse. They have to look at their finances. They have to consult their spirit guides. They have to, there's any number of things, right? I'm being a little bit facetious, but it's for people who really need to think about this longer. Not everybody is a quick responder. Not everybody is an 8 out of 10 on the Colby like Blue and I are. We pretty much buy everything that we like when we see it. Don't tell anybody. So basically, for those people, you've got your heart close. You've got that, and the message of the heart close is, if not you, who? If not now, when? That's really what's happening there. So I call this the triad, and I'm going to see if I can be fancy here. Yeah. So.
If you go the fourth icon from the top, there's a highlighter there.
Oh, there is? That's fancy. Okay. So I just put a little orange mark there because those 3 sessions, in my opinion, should not be moved from those locations. And again, one-dayers, I'm going to show you how that works for you at the end. So again, keep paying attention. But in a 3-day, it's halfway through the program. You don't want to move those sessions around. Don't do them in a different order. This is not the time to get creative. Trust me, we do this over and over and over again. Keep these in this spot. And so basically from 4 o'clock on day 2 until 11 o'clock on day 3, you're basically in the invitation mode. All 3 of these are what I think of as part of the bigger invitation. If not you, who? If not now, when? Only you can do the work, but you don't have to do it alone. It is the solution and the invitation all coming to rest right there. Don't move those around. Okay, let's go to the next thing then. So then we have hot content session before the offer. So now that I've found my colors, I'm going to be a little bit more creative. Let me see what I've got here. Okay, so this session here, which is session 3. Oh no, I've lost my fat pen.
Yeah, it's going to be
There we go. My husband is in total shock right now that I figured
really
this out.
am. You are just crushing it with the iPad.
Right. So this is hot content. And the nature of hot content is this. Doesn't matter what industry you are, it doesn't matter what niche you are, it don't matter what country you are, it doesn't matter what language you speak. Hot content goes here before the offer. And the heart of hot content is showing them how to make money. However you do that. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I'm in personal development. Okay, you're showing them how to be your better selves. If you think back to the first training we did, it's showing them how to do more, be more, have more, make more. Make more tends to be the one that jumps the needle the easiest. And here's why. I'm more likely to spend money if you've just shown me how to make money. So if you're doing anything that's going to show people how to make money, I want you to get that done before you make the invitation, before you show them the panel. And incidentally, the bridge from the hot content, I'm going to show you how to make money. I'm going to show you how easy this can be. I'm going to show you how you can do more, be more, have more, make more. I'm going to show you that in this session and content that you are just going to be blown away by. And then when you come back from the break, I'm going to introduce you to some ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And that pivot to me is really critical. You have to set up that panel. Why are they hearing from these people? They start to forget that ordinary people can do it. If they're watching a Jeff Walker, Dean Graziosi, Russell Brunson, Shanda Sumter, Fabienne Fredrickson, Marsha Weeder, they start to think, well, of course you can do it. I paid to come see you and you have magical powers. They start to believe that. It's important to show them right here that ordinary people just like them were sitting just where they were sitting, and by taking your course, by being with you, by having your accountability, think of ACE, accountability, community, enhanced opportunity, by having those things available to them, they are now in a better place. I think of that as the hero's journey. Where were you before you met the host? What was the big dream you had? What was the dragon you had to slay? What was the action you had to take? And then what are the results? And we're going to come back to that in just a second and talk about it more. But that's what that panel does. So I've got how to make more money, and then I've got a panel who shows you exactly how they did it, ordinary people just like you. And then I say, would you like to be just like them? Well, let me show you how. Here's my solution. Here's the invitation. And you give them the invitation. They have a buying break at dinner. They come back to see your mastery through hot seats or laser coaching or makeovers. They either buy or they go to bed and toss and turn. They come down the next morning. They either buy or they hear your heart close. If not you, who? If not now, when? Speak directly to the thing that's making the decision, their heart. And hopefully they buy then, and they join us for the celebration lunch. And here, let's just make this blue. This is going to be, here we go. Celebration lunch. And we talked about that, right? Like that's that C in here, and celebration is welcome to your new family. So I'm going back to my pink here, because here we need attention release. So if you have hot content before the offer, you've kept them in a certain amount of tension for the panel, for the invitation, for the laser coaching, and for the heart close. Now you need attention release. And what I mean by that is you need something funny or relaxing. It's fun content. It's great content. Let's let everybody relax a little bit. I'm going to tell you in level 3 how you can do something else with that. But if you're just getting started, it's just a good content tension release session, because that you've been holding them in a certain tension from 4 o'clock on day 2 until 11 o'clock on day 3. So the next piece is, a lot of you are probably thinking about guest speakers. Some of them might even be what we call speak to sell, where you're going to take a split. They're going to do some and you're going to do some. So if I'm going to put on a guest speaker, I'm going to run out of colors here. If I'm going to put on a guest speaker, I either like to put them here. Oh, wow, that's really fat. No.
You want to go with 6B?
What?
6.
There we go. I either want the speaker to be here, or I want them to be here. I don't want them on day 2. That's all about you. You're stacking your own value. So, and I don't want them here, because they should be falling in love with you here. You can have social proof here on your stage, but you can't have a different speaker. It's too early. So you can put them here. I don't want to put them in the last session, and here's why. You should close the day. The only way you could put them here in the 4th session is if you're coming back to do an evening session. But really, my favorite place is when they come back from lunch, if you feel like you must. And if they're going to speak, no more than $9.97. I mean, if they're going to sell, no more than $9.97. And if they're going to sell over here, no more than $19.97. I talk a lot more about this in my course. For now, you just have to take my word for it. It's too much to put a super high offer on day 1, and it's too much to put a super high offer after you've been selling them on a high ticket offer for this long. So either $9.97 or less on day 1, or somewhere in that $9.97 to $19.97 on day 3. Some people push the bounds of this with the $29.97 or $39.97. It can be done. But if you're just getting started out, I'd recommend keeping it simple. Okay, so now let's start to do this. So now we have those. We have this. So right now, if you count your modules, right now we have a module here. We have a module here. If you're going to do something after dinner, you have a module here. You have a module here. You have a module here. Right here, you can either have a module or you can put your closing right after the celebration. That's optional. Let's assume that you're going to have a module there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3 whole days, 6 sessions of content you need to fill with brand new content or things that you teach every day. So I always see a host are like, whoa, hold on. I mean, they go and they've booked all these speakers and they've, I need to fill it, I need to fill it, I need to fill it. And you start to do the math and they're like, wait, I don't have any time to speak. I'm like, I know. This stuff collapses really fast. So if you're actually going to do your closing here, then you actually only have 5 sessions of content, right? Now, you might put yourself here. Maybe you can put a 6 there if you're not going to have a speaker there. But if you're going to have speakers in those spots, that's where that's going to go. If you're going to have a philanthropy, some kind of fundraiser, it's going to go in this afternoon. Always in the afternoon of day 1, never on day 2. Too much distraction around your offer. It's a little too late in the game, in my opinion, to be doing it on day 3. So that's how that happens. Now, here's the thing. I need a really... Let me see if I can get this one. Okay. So for those of you, and I've actually mocked this up. This is part of what you're going to get tonight, right? You can see this here has a lot more detail than what I'm going to be giving you. I'm going to give you a blank one that you can fill in and create your own. And I'm going to give you a super detailed one that has all the notes that I've been sharing with you tonight so that you don't have to take notes. But if you're doing a 1 day, you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. You capture that? I know this is so messy, guys, but the one you're getting is going to be so pretty, I promise. Blue Melnick is going to make it super, super pretty for you, and you're going to fall in love with it.
that is not going to be me that does that.
Right.
But
Is it Christian? Christian, we love
the
Christian.
ever artful Christian who does
you
all
can
of our
thank
video
Christian
editing.
for all the beautiful things anywhere that we're presenting here, because you can tell that I'm not the artist. Okay, so that's your 1 day, right? So that's how it collapses. Think about it. You're going to have a 1 day. It's like basically a 9 to 5, 9 to 6. You're still going to need an opening. You're still going to need some great content at the beginning to warm them up and show your mastery. You're going to need some hot content before you give them some social proof in the form of a panel. You're going to make an invitation. You're going to do some laser coaching or Q&A. You're going to need to have a repitch. You're going to have to go back to them with your heart close, and then you have to have a closing. That's a day. That literally is a 9 to 6 day. And if I were doing a 1 day, I really love to end it with a reception, because I think if they're in buy mode, it gives them a chance to interact with you and your team and to mix and mingle so you can close them. Now, a lot of you have been asking about high ticket offers, and generally the way I look at it is a 1 day is for somebody who wants to sell anything up to $5,000, and a 3 day is really when you're going above $5,000, all the way up to $100,000. I hear rumors that there's going to be a new mastermind for $250,000, so that'll be breaking some new boundaries. But it's one of those things to really be keeping in mind is just how you're interacting with your crowd. And you can see here how it really condenses quickly. You don't have a lot of room for content. If you're doing a 1 day, you've got this opening segment, that's 1. You've got hot content, that's 2, right? So 1, 2, and then you have like kind of your closing in here. Now you can weave some content, this other stuff. I mean, and make no mistake, laser coaching is still content, right? But I'm talking about your obsessive need to be like, I have to have a session, I have to fill a session, I have to have like some core content. It goes by really, really quick in a 1 day. So that is that. That's our level 2. That's kind of giving you your level 2 overview so that you have a sense. Oh, and there's one more thing I wanted to tell you about. We typically put something here called Afterglow. And I only do this in a 3 day. I think it's overkill. In a 1 day, you're doing a reception. And in a 3 day, you're doing Afterglow. Afterglow is where they can come to you and get a photo with you. So you say, and at the end of this event, I'll be standing right here, and our amazing photographer will be happy to take a picture of you with me. We won't use your camera, we'll only use ours. We'll post it to the Facebook group. Especially do that part. Trust me, I'm not going to explain it. You will thank me later. So you have your photographer take the pictures, you post it to the Facebook group. What happens in Afterglow is they come up to you and they're like, oh, this has been the most amazing 3 days. I just loved it. I loved it. And you're like, oh, I'm so surprised you're not in the program with me. I know I was going to, but all of a sudden you're now in a conversation around offer strategy. Or I'd love to. Next time, definitely doing it. I'm not saying that everybody who comes through the Afterglow line, you want to be trying closing. That's a little much, but it gives you that opportunity if they're in that mode. Here's the bigger thing it does, and this is really important. Everyone who lines up, think about it. If they want to have a picture with you, they're a raving fan. Otherwise, they're out the door. So your raving fans are lining up, and they're inevitably going to say, this was such an amazing event. I love this so much. Like, really? Would you mind saying that on camera? and you have your video crew there. And that video crew is there to capture testimonials that you can use to market your next event. I learned this early on in my career. After spending years wrangling testimonials, which in my mind might be the most miserable part of a live event, we decided to, hey, stop the madness. Let's do something called Afterglow, and let's really focus with Afterglow on getting them to make a video testimonial. And it's like shooting fish in a barrel. They're happy, they don't want to leave, they're coming to tell you how awesome you are, they can't say no to you, the camera guy's right there, you make it really easy for them, they take the video, you get a testimonial. It's super awesome. They're in the energy of the event. It's great. Even if there's noise in the background, that's even better. And then here's the last thing. Remember how I talked about how you have to have a team meeting on day 0? Well, you also need, in my opinion, to have a team celebration. And that's right here. You want to thank your team. You want to thank yourself. You've celebrated with your people who joined. Now you want to thank your team who joined. You want to really, thank you for working so hard. Thank you for making this possible. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. I'm proud of the work we've done. And ideally, you want to have a little bit of a debrief while it's fresh in their minds, right? Like what went well, what didn't, what should you do differently next time? So here's a couple little, I gave you some notes at the beginning of things to do. Here's another few things I want you to think about that sort of support this program at a glance, this macro view of the program at a glance. You always are seeding, always. Sales as service gets woven through everything, just a reminder. And remember the rhythm of a live event. It's sort of like a song. To keep it interesting, a song has different tempo, right? You have the chorus, you have all the different parts. Well, it's the same thing with a live event. You want to have ahas, you want to have questions at the mic, you want to have pair shares at their seat, you want to have shares at the mic. It breaks up just you want. Even if you're the most engaging speaker in the world, trust me, you want to have ahas, questions, and shares because it keeps the audience doing what? Building community, feeling a sense of like-minded people, feeling more connected. All of those things contribute to conversion, I promise you. So don't stack your programs so full that there's no time for ahas, questions, and shares. And then here's the last piece. Not everybody agrees with me, but I will tell you in Sage World, this is what we really promote. I would rather keep them busy than have them be at the bar. I think the best networking happens in the room. I think only bad things happen in the bar. I think people get distracted. I think they get confused. I think they start coaching each other. And if they were good at that, they wouldn't need to be at your event. So generally, I really try and fill these evening sessions. I'd like to have a session on night 1, and if I don't, I have a reception there that builds community and some reciprocity. I maybe do some photo ops. I really make the most of that, and I keep them busy with that. Only on night 1, by the way. I never do a reception on night 2, and here's why. I've proven this time and time again. Actually, with Mary Morrissey, I think we made this one change, and her conversions went up. It was ridiculous. You don't want to have a party on night 2 because we've got tension from here to here. And what does a party do? It breaks all the tension. People are like, oh, I'm not in so much pain. Have a couple of margaritas. Life is pretty good. It's all good. I'm here with my friends. This is really great. And while I don't want to manipulate them, I know it's in their highest service to be in the pain they're in. You know why? When they get home, they're going to be in that same pain. It's not like it's magic. It's not like it's going away. The pain that was there before they came, the pain that they have over seeing a higher vision of themselves and not being able to execute it, it's going to be waiting for them when they get home. So I don't think I'm trying to put them in a fake pain. That would be weird. That is icky. But for your people who are in a real pain over where they want to go and how they're going to get there, you want to give them a solution. And that is how laser coaching is a much better use of their time. Keep them in laser coaching, senior mastery, not in the bar. And we even encourage them, stay hydrated, stay healthy, don't be down at the bar. So now we want to get into level 3. I want to talk to you about level 3. So believe it or not, what we've gone through is level 1, the 3x3 PAG, and then level 2, which is how to fill in the big rocks in your program. And now there are all these new options and nuances that you can add. That is level 3. We're going deeper. Now I want you to really hear me on this. I'm going to run through this super quick. I'm not going into the kind of detail I went into here, and here's why. First of all, there's a lot of detail in this in our course, and there's a good amount of detail in 17 ways on this. But most importantly is that if you are just starting out, if this is your first time event or you're just starting to get your sea legs and get confident, adding in too much of this stuff is a massive distraction. It can be massively overwhelming for you. It can be massively overwhelming for your team, and it can be massively overwhelming for your audience. It is a certain level of mastery. Level 3 is a certain level of mastery. I'm going to say it again. Level 3 is a certain level of mastery. When you're adding in these things, it makes for a much more complicated program. So this is how you get into a Frankenstein event. You went to an event, you saw a coaching zone. You went to an event, you saw a retail store. You went to an event, you saw a sponsorship. You're like, if it was good for them, it's good for me. Let's just do it. Let's just throw it in there. Spaghetti, see what sticks. It's all kinds of crazy. You have to be really strategic in deciding what you're going to add into your event, and it's form follows function. What's going to make the most sense for revenue and for your energy and for the attendees' energy. And here's the thing, it's always seen through the lens of enrollment and sales as service. Very few hosts can effectively use all of these at the same time. Some of them do it, and the ones who do almost always are the ones who've hired us and they let us do it for them because it's not uncomplicated. And for one days, it is a big no-no. It will just take your eye off the ball. I mean, unless you've been doing this for years and you have a super strategic strategy, it can confuse the buyer and it can be penny wise, pound foolish. It's best to introduce these level 3 opportunities once you have confidence in the model and you can start to sprinkle them in. I think of it like Panera. If you've ever been to Panera and it's like you pick 2, you pick 2. Don't pick all of them. It's not all of them. And only after you've gotten the first one under your belt, the first live event under your belt, and you feel super confident in it. But when you are ready, it adds richness, it adds revenue, and it adds relationships. As you start to stack your live events and think of your 2, 3, and 4, you're adding more revenue. But if you're not careful, it can be a Frankenstein. I want to tell you a quick story with his permission. A client of ours, Pete Vargas, came to us last year, and we know Pete. He does some amazing work in our industry, and he was about to give up on live events. He was like, you know, Barry, they're too costly. We didn't get great conversions. The team was exhausted. I'm just thinking, you know, they're not for us. I said, you know what? Before you give up, I love your work. Let's work together and see if we can't fix it for you. He hired us and we started to dissect his program, and we totally saw the Frankenstein effect in his program at a glance. I mean, it was a hodgepodge of all kinds of things, all not in the right order. And same thing with his program. So we stripped his program first and we rebuilt it, his offer. You know, took his offer, because you always start with big Y, took his offer, stripped it, rebuilt it, and then we took his program, stripped it, and rebuilt it. Within 1 year of working with us, the very next event, it was a 2 million plus live event. So he went from being in the red to being really in the black and feeling super good about it. We're in the midst of planning his next one now, and it's year 2 scale. And we're adding in some of this new stuff because now he's ready. So the bottom line, it's worth getting this right, and it's super costly to get it wrong. And we talk about a lot of this in our course. Yeah.
So I also just want to say really quickly, because when you say that you stripped it, or that we stripped it and rebuilt it, and we stripped it and rebuilt it in both the case of the program and the like the course and the program, for you watching at home, what's really important for you to know is when we rebuilt it using the strategies that you learned on Wednesday night and on Monday night and 5 minutes ago tonight.
Absolutely.
That's everything that we did. We just walked him through our process. So it's not like Barry did wave a magic wand, but the end result of the magic wand was the 3x3 PAG, the level 1, level 2 program at a glance that we went through tonight, and also that big Y exercise. All of those things were things that we guided Pete through, and that you should be really managing with all of your live events.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I'm throwing around some big numbers. I just want you to know you don't need $1 million live event to be super successful. You know, I think it was Celeste that said she wanted to get to $10,000 a month, and you can do that too. I mean, this is part of how you can do that. But no, a simple strategic program like the one I showed you can get you there. And then some of the things I'm talking about now are how you can even add more revenue when you're ready. So the first one is VIP perks and pre-event upsells. It could be pre-event bonus session for people who buy early. You tack that on day 0 from like 4 to 6 o'clock. Builds a lot of reciprocity, helps you get to know some of your best buyers. It's a great idea. You have a reception either for VIPs who've paid for upgrades or for your clients to love them up, or a mix of the two, so your clients are mingling with your VIPs. You have VIP programs like a reception, early access to the room, lunches where you host Q&A and get to know them a little bit better. You know, the thing I love about VIPs, and it's probably one of the first things I would consider adding to this, it would be a VIP lunch. Here, let's see if I can make that bigger. This is a kaleidoscope of color. It would be a VIP lunch here a VIP lunch there and maybe a VIP reception here or here. You know, the thing about those is that they help pay for your F&B minimum. You get to host Q&A, and you get to be with your best buyers. VIPs are essentially paying you to say, hey, I'm your best buyer. I'm willing to pay for access. I'm willing to pay for upgrades. I really am willing to pay for more. And I always give them early access to the room each morning because it doesn't cost me anything, and they really value it. What it allows them to do is basically be in an early access line, come into the room, pick their favorite seat, and then the rest of the group comes in. So highly valued, but it costs you nothing. So the next one, I want you to be selective about this one, is sponsors. Sponsors are a great thing. It gives you advanced revenue that help pay for your event. And if I'm doing sponsors, especially if I'm allowing them stage time, it's going to be on day one primarily, maybe a little bit on the morning of day two, and not selling anything, right? They're just doing like lead generation. There's a whole, I mean, gosh, we do so much training on sponsorships. It's a whole rabbit hole. It's why we have a whole module devoted to that in our course. But my simple word of advice is it's better to fill seats than sponsorships. If you're just getting your feet wet in this model, you can frivol away so much time trying to sell a sponsor. And here's the deal. For most of you, a high ticket offer is going to quickly outpace most of your sponsor sales. You know, think about it. 4 $25,000 mastermind sales is easier in a room like this with the systems and strategies we're giving you than trying to sell 4 sponsors at $25,000. So don't get all caught up in sponsorship unless you're really ready. People know the value of you and your audience, and you're not going to spend a ton of time on it. Much more important to spend your time on putting butts in seats, right fit clients in seats. The other thing you can do is add the philanthropy that I talked about, a fundraiser like Village Impact or Unstoppable Foundation or OUR. They're 3 of our favorites. Charity Water, we love them. You know, it can really open up reciprocity in the room, and it allows you to do well and do good, which is a platform we really believe in. Not only at Sage do we give generously, we tithe to all the charities that we have at our events. It's a rule of ours. We're not going to ask you to do it without us doing it, but we also raise hundreds of thousands of dollars just through the simple power of a live event. It can be really, really powerful and help you support a cause you really believe in. You can also have breakouts. If you're going to do breakouts, here's a rule, hard and fast. Only on the afternoon of day 1. I'm really not a fan of them on day 2 and never on day 3. So those are some of the adds and upgrades. I know there are others. I mean, you can do retail, you can do coaching zones. Coaching zones are for people that have sophisticated sales teams and a sophisticated team to run them. Otherwise, they can run amok and it can be a real disaster. It is not something to just toss in there without thinking through it. And retail can be a real runaway train. And here's why. You're going to end up with a garage full of everything you didn't sell. And shirts are especially hard. Think about it. How many extra larges do I need? Double XL, smalls, mediums. So if you guess wrong, you're going to be paying for it. So that's a super complicated one. So, you know, before you add in those layers, be super clear on it. And you can even, you know, get advice from people who have done it and pay, you know, again, we spend a lot of time on it in our course because we think it's something people really get wrong and it takes your eye off the ball. The real money is right here in your high ticket offer. Okay, so level 4. I've been talking a lot about level 4, even though you don't know it yet. Level 4 is really where we're focusing on crushing your high ticket offer. Because the thing about the high ticket offer, I just said it, is that it pays you back 100 times over. It is the thing that's going to make you the most money, more than an upsell, more than a downsell, more than a cross sell. It's going to make you more money. And so you really, if you haven't listened to the Big Why exercise training on night 2, where we helped you design your high ticket offer, we did drop a PDF in that basically gives you the whole map of how to do that. I highly recommend you do it. It's an exercise that we dust off and use with our clients over and over again. And you might remember me saying this on Wednesday, but I want to remind you, every time you're introducing a new program, it's great to introduce that new go through that whole exercise again, go through that. We often do laser coaching apps, which allows you to get information on your clients. If you introduce a laser coaching app here, you know, let's say around that lunchtime, midday on day 1, and it's for them to apply to be coached by you, not only does it allow you to pick the best people to be on stage with you, but it also gives you gold for when you go home. You know what all their problems are, and you know how to find the solutions. Same thing with really listening to the questions at the mic. You know, that is gold. Have a team really pay attention to that. Be recording those. That's people telling you exactly what they're struggling with so that you can figure out how to fix it. and be rid of the Frankenstein effect, the more is more effect. Really focus on less is more. So it's impossible to say no to you when the offer is right. You will get a rush of sales using this triad approach of these sessions. So level 4 is really being super clear on that triad on 4 p.m. day 2 to 11 a.m. on day 3, or if you're doing a one day, it's going to be right after lunch, that sweet spot of those couple sessions after lunch. We're going to put a one-day cheat sheet into the portal for you. So here's how to think through this. Know that in the course we do a deep dive on in structure and scripts and collateral and what our philosophies are on commitment cards and enrollment cards and how to run the welcome lunches. We spend a lot of time on that and all the nuances in the micro that we can't possibly get into tonight. But I want you to know that the inspiration panel is basically designed to be ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and they're aligned with your objections: time, money, spouse, fear, and shame. I'm going to come back to those in a second, so don't freak out if we didn't write those down. The invitation is to get people to put down their commitment to you, a non-refundable deposit. And if you think back to what we talked about on the last couple trainings, that non-refundable deposit isn't because it's going to make or break you, it's because it's going to make or break them. We want them to stay committed to the decision they made. So a non-refundable deposit is what we use to hold your place in the program and get you into the lunch next day. And then we're big believers that then at the lunch, you choose payment plan or pay in full. If you think about it, it's really breaking down the buying decision. I spent years at the back of the room when I first got into this industry haggling over payment plans and, you know, who was paying for what, and can I restructure this payment plan, and can I do it like this? And about, I don't know, probably 7 years ago now, so about half of our lifespan as a company, we happened upon the idea of putting a commitment card. That's all it takes, is just put down your commitment to get in the program. $500 or $1,000 is the typical fee for a program that's $5,000 and above. So the lower the program, like $5,000, it might be $500. The higher the program price, $1,000. So if it's $5,000, $500 due. If it's $25,000, $1,000 due for your commitment to hold your space in the program. You don't have to decide payment plan or pay in full. All you have to do is get to the lunch, and we handle that paperwork there. And we do it all as a group. So it keeps it really simple and keeps you from going into total overwhelm. So if you think about it, we talked about our panel, we talked about our invitation, we talked about the value of laser coaching, we talked about the fact that the heart close is really the swing vote in getting all the people on the fence to make a decision, speaking to their heart. It's a really critical piece. Don't skip that one. It can feel like I'm being too salesy, I'm being over pitchy. It's a heartfelt conversation to them to get them to make a decision in their own best interest. You're not trying to sell the whole room. Not everybody's going to buy. You're trying to sell the people who are most important, who most need your help, who are on the fence, who are in pain over not being able to make the decision, which gets into the next piece of this. Once you start to make your offer and you do your heart close, what's going to happen is people ask questions at the mic, and you have to be able to answer it from the front of the room. And more importantly, they typically are going to go to the back of the room and talk to your team. And, you know, at the end of the day, these are enrollment conversations. They're overcoming objections. And I look at it as slaying dragons. You know, it's slaying dragons. Like, it's something considerably hard, you know, that they're worried about overcoming. And it typically falls into a few camps I'm going to describe in a minute. But I want to talk to you about the art of enrollment, why I think it's so important. I really think of as enrollment as like a life skill. Like, you need it with, you know, spouses back at home. Doesn't even have to be about offers. Like, every day, Blue and I are in the art of enrollment. I'm trying to enroll him to do a programmatic Lance PDF tonight. I mean, every day is enrollment. Children are enrollment. Parents are enrollment. Siblings are enrollment. Employees are enrollment. Everything in life, in my world, comes down to the art of enrollment. So why not go ahead and learn how to overcome objections and learn the art of enrollment now? And I'm going to tell you that the heart of the art of enrollment is that your certainty trumps anybody else's. So this is, I'm going to take a moment and get on my bandwagon here. Is it a bandwagon? No.
Soapbox.
Soapbox. Not a bandwagon, a soapbox. Get on my soapbox. So
Get everybody on your bandwagon, and you get on yours.
yeah, get on my bandwagon after me being on the soapbox. That's it. Okay, so here it is. There are a lot of women in our rooms, and women a lot of times are not good buyers because they will go home and they will try and ask their spouse for permission. And, you know, I'm not trying to put you, maybe this isn't you. If I'm not speaking to you, yay you, this isn't your problem. But if you're out there and you know that you fall into this camp, or you know that the women in your audience fall into this camp, this is super important to know. that the whole conversation around the spouse is so often you're asking for permission, which immediately signals that you're not sure. Like, you wouldn't be asking for permission if you were sure. So, art of enrollment in my mind kind of gets encapsulated to this, whether you're talking to your children or your spouse or your parent or whoever it is. The heart of enrollment skills doesn't have to be salesy or bait and switch. I don't think those things stick. The art of enrollment is actually enrolling people through your certainty. So if you were to go home to your spouse and instead of saying, I was at this event, I would really like to do this thing, and I don't know, will you help me pay for it, or do you think I could do this, or what do you think I should do? The worst question ever. Here's a person who hasn't been in the room, and they don't know what you have experienced. They don't know who the person is. It probably sounds like a cult to them. And you're asking them to make an incredibly important life decision. They're not ready for that. It's actually pretty unfair to them. A very different conversation is to go and say, I hope you'll support me in this. Like, I went this weekend, had an incredible experience. It was life-changing for me. I have super good clarity. I know exactly what I need to do, but here's the thing. I need help to get there. I don't want all of our dinner conversations to be about my business. I need a coach. I need someone to help me do the thing I'm trying to do. I've decided to do it, and I hope you will support me. You're not telling them, you're enrolling them. And that same skill works at the back of the room. That same skill works with anybody, any place, anytime. It's the art of enrollment. And what tends to be the dragons that we most commonly have to slay, the most common objections that you're going to hear, they almost always fall into time, money, spouse, fear, and shame. And it's a lot to go into here. I'm just going to go through them super quickly. Time, I don't have time to do this. Money, I don't have the money to do this. Spouse, my spouse won't let me do this. Fear, I'm super afraid to do this. And shame, I've done this before and either I didn't work or it didn't work. And I feel embarrassed that I spent that money. I'm ashamed that I invested this money and then I didn't do the work. Or I'm ashamed that I invested this money and then the person I paid to help me didn't actually do what they said they were going to do. And so they're wary. I am telling you, pretty much any question that comes up to you at the stage or to you at the back of the room is going to fall into time, money, spouse, fear, or shame. And I actually do a training for our clients. It's been a game changer. We introduced it, actually Fabienne Fredrickson, who you met on night one, encouraged me to do this. I've been training her team on it. And she said, you really just need to record this for your clients so you don't have to keep doing it over and over again. So I did, and it is part of how we developed the ACE strategy that we talked about and part of how we designed our overcoming objection strategy at the back of the room. And literally our clients thank us over and over and over again. Our teams listen to it over and over and over again. It's one of the services that we hear the most about, and it's actually going to be a bonus in my course because I think it's so important. And I can't possibly go through all of it here tonight, but I promised you a super simple strategy that will help you turn the tide during a sales conversation. You don't have to know all the stuff I teach in that bonus training. You just have to know this. It's this simple. Here it is. Just listen to me. It's this one thing. Tell me more. Tell me more. And then pause and wait and let them tell you more. And here's why. So often someone comes up to the back table and it's like, I don't have the money. And you're like, oh, I'm sure you do. I don't have the time. You can make the time. You try and solve it for them. It's, in my opinion, not the right way to get them to yes. And I don't mean get the sale. This is about enrollment. I mean getting them to yes, where they're truly enrolled in themselves and in the idea, and they're going to stick. It's not arm twisting where the next day they're going to have that hangover feeling and call you and say, I want to drop out, give me my money back. This is about enrolling them for the long term and themselves first and you second. So it sounds like this. I don't have the money. They explain it and you say, tell me more. I don't have the time to do this. I understand. Tell me more. My spouse is absolutely not going to support me in this. Really? Tell me more about that. I am super afraid to do this. I mean, like, I am shaking just think about do this. I can see that. You do seem super scared. Tell me more. Why is this so scary to you? And hardly ever will someone just walk up to you and say, I'm ashamed. That's a big one. That's usually buried layers beneath. But it tends to show up more like, I don't trust you. I don't think you're going to do the work. It's like, are you, they'll ask a million questions, right? They're the person who stands at the back and asks a million questions. And it's really like, tell me more. Is there a chance that, you've not done the work in the past, or you've paid someone who hasn't done the work and now you're afraid you'll be let down again. Tell me more about that. That simple question of tell me more, which by the way, when they answer, can be followed by another tell me more, followed by another tell me more, is to get to the question behind the question, to get them unstuck. Because very few of us are going to walk up and get into what I call level 5 conversation. They're not going to go deep. They just go to the obvious thing. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. My spouse won't let me. I'm scared to do this. They don't have the language to get to what's really holding them back. And especially if you're a coach in this world, it's your job to coach them. It's to get them to a decision. And listen, sometimes the decision is that they're not ready. I've dealt with so many of those. I'll be like, you know what? I've got to tell you, I don't think you're ready. And it's okay. And I swear to you, sometimes you will see like the biggest sense of relief when you say that, because they know it's true, they're not ready. And I tell you what, they will come back next year and be like, do you remember me? Last year you told me I wasn't ready, and you were so right, but I have spent the last year getting ready. And this year, I'm here to buy this program. I know I need this program. There has to be integrity in that. When you coach them to a decision, there is, even if it's not you. But more often than not, if they're at the back table, it's because they want to buy. They wouldn't be there if they didn't want to do it. They're just looking for someone to help them make the decision. And I believe it's your job in that moment to help them get unstuck. Like the worst form of self-abuse is staying in procrastination and being stuck. And we do it all the time. And women are especially bad about it, about allowing ourselves to stay stuck. If I do say so myself, I deal with a lot of women at the back table, and I happen to be one. And I happen to have lived through this myself. It's something that I've had to work through, is not asking for permission and really asking myself for what I want to do, finding my own certainty. And that starts with really being honest. Tell me more. I say to myself sometimes, why are you being so stuck? So, the heart of overcoming objections, it isn't that you have to memorize all these scripts. You don't have to be salesy. You don't have to be icky. You don't have to arm twist. It doesn't have to be slimy. You have to be authentic and real and look at the person in the eyes and see them, really see them, and be present with them and just say, tell me more. It's the kindest thing that you can possibly do to be the person who's willing to ask them to tell you more, and to be willing to hear it, and then to be willing to coach them to a decision, which if it ends up being yes, and they come into your program, I promise you this, you will be, when it is right for them, the minute they sign the commitment card and then you put the lanyard on them or the ribbon, it's like they're transformed. I mean, you will literally see it. Just making the decision changes them. And for those people that you say you're not ready, the ones who don't kind of go, you're right, I'm not, will do this. Promise you. What do you mean I'm not ready? I'm totally ready to do this. I'm ready. Like, great. Then let's stop dancing around this thing and let's do this. I know you're scared. Let's do this together. It's going to be a game-changing year. And if you truly believe that, and what you're selling, what you're enrolling them in has integrity, and you're going to show up and do the work, there's nothing wrong with helping people get to a yes decision. If you believe that in your heart, I promise you, it's that easy to have conversations at the back table and to increase your conversions, because your heart is in it and you're doing it in their best interest. It's manipulation to the highest good, because you know they're in pain and you're trying to solve that for them. And then of course you need to show up and do the work and do what you said you're going to do and create those transformations. If you go back to that big why exercise, this is all coming full circle. You know who they are. You recognize them at the back table. They're a right fit client. You know the services you've created are going to create a raving fan, because you know your non-negotiables, you've filled the gaps, and you've designed a program that's perfect for them. So I know this has been a ton of information to digest tonight. It's like pulling a lot of things together for you. So at this point, I know what you need the most. You need a quick little dose of inspiration from one of our clients who has an event coming up in 2 weeks, one of my favorite people in the world. He is using the exact same structure that I shared with you tonight, and he has gone from 0 to 7 figures in just 3 years, all with a super affordable offer. It's actually not super high ticket, and he's done multiple 7 figures, and it's totally in alignment with his brand. Join me in meeting Stu McLaren. So I am here with my good buddy, friend, colleague, and client, Stu McLaren. And I am super excited for you because if there is someone in this world that you need to know, it's Stu McLaren, because he is brilliant and he does amazing work in membership sites, but also the bigger world. We're going to talk a little bit about the impact that he's able to have because of the work he does and the live event work he does. So with no further ado, let me introduce you to Stu McLaren. Hey, Stu.
Hello. Great to be here with you, Barry.
Thank you for joining us. I so appreciate you being willing to share your story with our audience so they can be inspired and learn how they can use live events in their business, much like you have. I want to start with you telling our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do and what your business is like today.
So we have a training and a software company. And at the end of the day, what we focus on is helping entrepreneurs add more recurring revenue in their business through membership sites and subscriptions. So the training side of the business, it teaches people how to add a membership site into their existing business. And then ultimately the software helps them do that easier and faster. So those are the two sides of the business. And, we're very fortunate. We have a great company, we serve thousands and thousands of people every year, but our business model is really simple. We do one launch a year for our training product. That launch then feeds our live event, which then feeds our membership and our software sales. So essentially our business model is pretty simple in the way that it's structured, but it's given us the ability to be able to grow and to be able to be creative and to be able to reach tens of thousands of people with what we do.
I love that because we have been talking about this week the model of going from launch to live event to expand the continuum of your business, that it's not just the live event, it's what happens before and during and after. So I love what you've just described there of going launch to live event and then membership site. Tell me, when we first started working together, your primary business was your course. Tell us a little bit about that course and just the size of your business when you hosted your first live event.
Well, if we rewind, when the business that we're currently in, how many years ago was that? This would have been 4 years ago, was non-existent. So 4 years ago, this business was not here. And essentially what I was doing is I was transitioning from another company that I had built and ultimately sold. So I was starting from scratch. I had zero audience. I had no following. I didn't have a product to sell. But what I did have was I had expertise. I had been working and helping membership site owners for decades. And so ultimately what I ended up doing was I started with a really small event. And it was an event that I held in Redondo Beach, California. And it was for 20 people. And I taught a workshop, which ultimately ended up becoming the flagship course, which is now called Tribe.
Oh my God. So I want to pause right there. That's amazing because on our first training, we had someone ask, they posted in the chat, is it an event to rent an Airbnb and put like 15 or 20 people in? So I want to make sure we state this for the audience. Like, this can be a live event. It doesn't have to be a ballroom. It doesn't have to have a huge amount of liability. Your very first live event was in an Airbnb for 20 people.
Yeah, and here's what's important about that I hope everybody hears as I'm sharing that, is that we didn't envision, it becoming this big event. We didn't envision it becoming this big trip. We were just focused in the moment of like, let's just help people in this small workshop. And that small workshop was for 20 people in an Airbnb. By the way, little hint and tip is no matter what you do, be intentional about capturing that experience. So even though we didn't know where it would lead, what we knew that it was the beginning of something. So we had, people there to capture the video, of which the video then served later down the road. And so that first workshop, word of mouth spread, and I ended up doing another one right after in Toronto. And then a few months later, my family and we were heading to Hawaii. And my wife said, wouldn't it be great if we could write some of this trip off? And I said, that would be great. So I put out a post on Facebook. This is how simple it was. I literally put out a post. I said, I've hosted 2 of these workshops and people love them. I'm thinking in quotations of hosting another one. And if you are interested, just send me a direct message. Now, I want to kind of unpack this a little bit because it's really important. The last thing that I wanted to do was have egg on my face because nobody had any interest. But because I said just send me a direct message, nobody knew whether I had hundreds and hundreds of people or no people emailing me. But so what happened was, obviously there was a bunch of people, and so I hosted another workshop in Hawaii. And then a mutual friend of ours, Erico, he had heard about how people were loving this workshop, and he said, would you be willing to come down to Brazil and host it? Now, I want to share this because when we start, we never know where it's going to lead. I had no intention whatsoever of going to Brazil. I had no idea that was even in play. But what happens is you got to get started somewhere. And when you do, it leads to ultimately what it's become now, where we have this big event where we've got hundreds and hundreds of people coming, and I'm super pumped and excited.
I want just to pause there and make sure that the audience is like, this is landing for you, because I've been watching your chats and your comments, and I know so many of you are afraid to get started. You're wondering if you're big enough, if your message is clear enough. You don't have the full vision completely dialed in, so you're kind of waiting to get ready. And what Stu is telling you is, I have so many clients who have a similar story to this, where done is better than perfect. Like, putting yourself out there allows you to refine the message. And I love what you said about capturing the course. You know, basically capturing that footage allowed you to have that first course. And how many people tell us about the course now? Like, fast forward to how many people have used this course today?
Well, we several months ago, we just finished our third big public launch. It was just over a $5 million launch.
$5 million. Congratulations. Yes. I mean, that's amazing in and of itself.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. It's incredible. And I think that if I rewind, Barry, it boils down to this, is like, number one is just get started. Because even if you're not clear, by doing something, by taking action, the clarity comes. Like that first workshop, okay, this is kind of embarrassing for me to talk about, but it had the cheesiest name. It was the 7-figure membership site workshop. Like that, like I couldn't think of a name, so I went like super literal. And like now when I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like that's terrible. The branding was awful. But what it did was it gave me a chance to hash out what it is that I was teaching, to take what I knew and put it into some kind of a structure. And those workshops gave me that clarity. It also gave me the chance to work with real people and help them get real results, which created stories that I could ultimately tell, which helps me attract a lot more people. And all of that gave me the clarity, which led to us landing on the brand Tribe, which in our first launch, it took off like crazy. And in the first 10 months of the company, we went from 0 to $6 million. And so I share this because if we had got our knickers in a twist about worrying about getting everything perfect and not worrying that we didn't have a big enough audience and all that kind of stuff, we wouldn't have had all of the assets that we created during those smaller workshops that ultimately led to where we are today.
Wow, 0 to 6 million, that's amazing. And in less than 5 years, you're now having like a $5 million launch and producing live events. So we're about to produce our third live event together. Your course is called Tribe. Our event is Tribe Live that we'll be doing in Toronto in just a couple weeks. That's hard to believe. And I have to say, Stu, I love that your focus is so much on experience. And I think that, you know, no matter what decision we make, you are so loyal to how will it impact the attendee experience. For you, it's not just about the sales and the metrics. It's all about tribe. How will this impact my tribe? How will it make them better? It's not just about you. It's so much about them. I think that's unusual in our industry because the typical benchmark is metrics, like how much did you make and how much did you close and what are the conversion rates? And before you answer, I wanted to share with our audience, your conversion rates are incredible. I mean, your first event, we had 300 people. We had 110 people who purchased Stu's first program. The next event, the next year, we had 600. We introduced a new program. We had 450 out of 600 buy into that program. So the metrics are not bad. They're some of the best in our industry. And I think it's because of what you're about to say, which is your focus isn't on the metrics. I want you to tell our audience a little bit about your sales as service mentality.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because it's a bit of a vulnerable share because I had a mentor of mine that was exceptional with sales from stage. And it was the traditional sales approach where it was like, closing, and it was always measured. It was like, how many people are in the audience, how many buying units are in the audience. And then of that, like, what percentage are we looking to close? And it was very metric oriented. But I'll just be straight up. I never felt comfortable with it, like ever. Like I always felt like a used car salesman, you know what I mean? And so when we went into our first event together, I said to myself, I want to detach myself from the result. And I just want to create a great experience. And my belief was that if I create a great experience, the sales will follow. And so ultimately, we made decisions. If you remember back when we were, planning that first event, there were things that we wanted to do that were very expensive. Like, they wouldn't make sense from a profit margin standpoint to do the kinds of things that we were planning to do. But I wanted to do it because it would create the great experience, and ultimately the experience would lead to the sales. And we still have that philosophy today because, as you said, the metrics have proven to be very profitable all the way across the board, and we have gotten to create a great experience through it all. So it's kind of weird because, like, when I go into the event, people always ask me, like, what are your goals? What do you want to sell? And I'm like, I'm not thinking about that whatsoever. I'm just thinking about, like, how do we craft an amazing experience? And I have the belief that if we do that well, it will naturally lead to the sales that we're looking for. And up to this point, it's worked for us.
It really has. And, I on Monday's training, we got the question about there's so many live events out there and so many brands out there. And how do you distinguish yourself? How do you make it different? And I think for you, one of the things I most love about you is very distinctly your brand is always about the experience. Every call I have with your team is always through the lens that you have taught them, which is what will this lead to in the attendee experience? Like, how will this elevate their confidence? How will it support their mindset? How will it help them see new opportunity? How will it just help them have a good time? I mean, Let's see, we've taken the entire crowd, unexpected, unannounced, as a surprise, to a baseball game in downtown Toronto. So that was 300 people going to a baseball game as a surprise they didn't pay for in downtown Toronto. We've rented out an entire fun park, for lack of a better word, and taken 600 people on a ferry to have nothing but a night of fun. Again, not something that was promised or that they paid for. Why is that so important to you, and what do you think that brings to the bigger picture of your tribe, your brand, the event, and ultimately the conversions?
I think it stems from our core values as a company, and one of the big core values is fun. And so we ask ourselves that all the time, like, how can we make this more fun? And Barry, I'm just like a big kid, so when we're thinking about different ideas, I remember last year we were looking at different options, and then one of the options, they had bubble soccer, and I'm like, you had me at bubble soccer, like, let's go, like that. I cannot wait to go. And of course I'm there and I'm sweating like a crazy, playing bubble soccer, but it was just so much fun. And I think at the end of the day, we invest in the experience because it creates memories, and we're in this for the long game. We're not in this for the short game. We're in this for the long game. So we know that, if people have a great experience, then they're much more likely going to share it with others, tell others, recommend the event to others, and they're much more likely to come back. So for us, it's about how do we create memories and how do we create a memorable experience? And we're thinking about how do we almost create this almost like a reunion? It's like a family reunion where, everybody wants to come because they have a blast, and now they start bringing their families, which is happening, by the way. More and more people are starting to bring their families, and it's creating this family reunion type feel where it's you can't miss event every year, and people got it on their calendar. And that, to me, is what creates the strength of our company and the community that we're creating. That's what creates momentum. So the experience is everything from the moment that people register to the moment that people come to the registration, to little surprises, big and small, to the way we structure the event, the PAG, and to how we have different video and how we have different visuals and interactive components. We're just thinking about all these little components and how they contribute to the overall experience, because all the little details matter for the whole big picture.
They really do. And I love that you build in fun. Again, I think for our audience, the big takeaway there is like bubble soccer would not be right for everybody. And renting out an entire baseball park would not be right for everybody. But it's getting into your own DNA. Like Stu's a big kid, so he makes it about that, and people who are attracted to him because they love that about him. So as you're thinking about your live event, it's thinking about what is really true to you versus mimicking, or what we call Frankensteining, grabbing different parts from other people, copying it, throwing it together, throwing it against the wall to see what sticks. It's really about thinking about what's right for you, which leads me to my next question for Stu. We're talking about how to design your program at a glance, and we've gone from the macro view. We're now getting into the micro view, and I always say macro clear, micro easy. Tell me a little bit about how, we have this 3-day structure that you use with us. How has that helped you? And give me your thoughts on content. Can you give too much content in a 3-day program?
Well, no, you can never give too much content. I think at the end of the day, the content demonstrates to your audience the value that you provide. So if you cheap out on what you're providing and the experience you're creating, then naturally people are going to question the value of what you're offering. So for us, we always just love to think about the experience that we're delivering right now is the pre-launch to whatever we want to offer next. Mm-hmm. So as an example, like if we zoom out on the big, macro view, the experience people have going through our course is a pre-launch to them coming to the live event. If they have an amazing experience during the course, they're naturally going to want to come to the event. If they have an amazing experience during the live event, they're naturally going to want to work with us in our programs throughout the year. And so at the end of the day, it's like the experience people have is the pre-launch to whatever you want to offer next. So when you nail the experience, you're nailing the pre-launch to whatever you want to offer, and your conversion rates will go up accordingly. So for us, the greatest thing that you gave us was structure to work within. And that structure then allowed us to be creative. If you don't have structure and you're just creative, it's a hodgepodge of all kinds of randomness. And it doesn't have that cohesion that gets you to the end result. So the structure that you gave us then gave us a playground to work within, and then we could be creative within that, knowing that it's all serving the bigger strategy. So for us, we love to deliver on content. We love to make sure that people are having, not only are they inspired and motivated, but that there's tangible takeaways, that people can take away things right there in the audience. Like one of the greatest stories that, I get to share this year, because it happened last year, was one of our tribers who we incorporate a lot of our students sharing from stage. She shared a strategy that she used to launch her membership site, and it inspired a woman in the audience. Her name was Anna Saucier. And Anna Saucier thought, man, I could do that. And it was essentially a founder's member script. So how do you launch a membership site like quick and easy? And she's like, I could do that. So she made it a mission to launch her membership site before she left the event. And she didn't have everything set. She didn't even know what content she was going to be providing, didn't have a sales letter, didn't have videos, didn't have a webinar, didn't have nothing. She just used the idea that she got from Jamie on stage and went for it. And within 24 hours, she generated $5,024 from a tiny audience of 326 people, of infertility practitioners, by the way. And I'm sharing this story because now, look at that. That, because we share tangible tactics and strategies that people could use right away, I have a great story that demonstrates the value of being there in the room. And so never shy away from giving great content from stage, because if anything, it's only going to help with what you have to offer next.
I think that's such a great point. The general feeling I always think is if you give them incredibly good content, they feel like if this 3 days was this amazing, imagine what spending a year with you would be like. And I think part of that is because you create such a safe container, a place where people can be vulnerable and they can think bigger. They're surrounded by a tribe, literally a tribe, your brand of people exactly like them. And so it gives them that boldness to say, I'm going to do this while I'm here. And what I most love about that, your conversion rates are incredible. But it's like even the people who don't buy still feel incredibly well served. So then they become part of these ambassadors of just spreading the word. You can't miss this event, which is why the event keeps growing. We're going to have, I think, close to 900 people now. So in 3 years, we've gone from 300 to 600, now 900 in that short span of time. And I think it's because you provide such incredible content, such a great experience. And it's not just with the end result of, I want you to buy something.
Well, and I think too, thank you for that, Barry. And I think the other thing that I would say for people is sometimes it takes time to kind of find your voice and your style and how you want to approach your event. You know, as you said before, like oftentimes when we're starting an event, we can Frankenstein it because, oh, we like this idea from that person. Oh, we'll take that idea from that person. We kind of start patching these things together. But where the magic, I believe, really starts to happen is when you start to listen to what your audience is responding to. And I'll never forget the very first event that we did together. I don't know if you remember this, Barry, but it was an awkward moment, but a very important moment. But we were doing a Q&A, and we had people that would come up in the audience and they would ask a question. And so this one woman, she piped up and we gave her the mic, and she was wearing a shirt, but the lights were bright and I couldn't totally see. But I could tell there was like something on her shirt. But she asked her question, and I said, okay, great. And I responded and answered. And then the next person got up, and I could kind of see again, and it almost looked like the exact same shirt. And I went like this over the lights, and I could see it was my face on a shirt. And I said, wait a minute. I'm like, what is that on your shirt? And then there was like a whole bunch of chuckles, and like this group of like 12 people all stood up, and they were wearing my face with they called them Stewisms, like my sayings underneath. And I was like, this is either really creepy or this is something that I need to be paying attention to here. And ultimately what it taught me was that we had a culture that was being created, whether we realized it or not. And at that point, we started leaning into that culture because obviously our audience was resonating with that. And once we leaned into that, we started to, things became clear in terms of like, is this a fit with our culture or is it not? Like a perfect example, you know, our culture is all about, community being together. And so if you remember one of the very first calls we had, which was like, do we want a VIP section or not a VIP section? And we realized like, no, we don't want a VIP section. It works for some events, but it doesn't work for us because it's not a fit with the culture, because that VIP creates separation and we're about bringing everybody together. And so you start to get clear on who you are, your style, your culture, through doing it. You can't think your way here. You have to do it and experience it and pay attention to it and then lean into it once you identify those things. So I would just encourage everybody that the clarity comes from taking action. It starts with the first, 20-person workshop in an Airbnb in Redondo Beach, and doing it a couple times gave me the clarity of like, okay, this is how the content works. This is how I'll frame. These are the stories that I was able to gather from that. Here's the footage that I can use, in some capacity in the marketing. That led to the course, and the course led to the bigger live event, 300 in the first year, 600 in the second year, 900 in the third year, all of which has helped us get clear about our culture, which we infuse in every part of the event. And I would just say, like, you don't just wake up and know these things. You got to experience it and pay attention to it by taking action along the way.
That is such gold. Like that's such good advice. And, I wanted to highlight one thing. I think this is also part of your culture, and I so admire it about you. It's a less is more approach and keeping things simple. And it kind of goes back to that Frankenstein effect we talked about. I think it's a really popular thing in our industry to just grab all these things and take a more is more approach. And before you know it, you've got like, I've got 100 things, and I'll give you my firstborn child, and I'll promise you my library forever. And if I ever have an event, if I ever travel to the moon, you can come with me. Like, it just goes out of control. And I think you've really fought that trend and gone the opposite direction and really been rewarded for that, because your audience, people are so overwhelmed these days. The less is more approach of being really streamlined on exactly what your audience needs, like what would make your right fit client, your ideal client, successful, and only focusing there. Can you say a few words about that? Because I think no one does it better than you do.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I think I have a very simple brain, Barry, so that's probably where it stems from, in that I love to keep things simple for myself more than anything. But at the end of the day, when I'm crafting an offer, I think we lose momentum in the offer if people can't wrap their head around how it's going to change their life, and in a very simple way. So like, if at the end of the day, I share my offer, somebody hears that and they can't share it with somebody else, then it's not clear. And where it gets muddy and foggy for a lot of people is when you start like just pounding them with all these things that it's going to get. That can work for some. For me, it's worked to just be really simple in the components of the offer, keeping them streamlined, and then spending time talking about why they are important. So not just speaking about what is included, but most importantly, speaking about why it's important for them. And I think when people make offers, they forget the why. And the why is so important. But you can't get into the why if you've got a whole bunch of what. And so you're just telling people, and you run out of time. So I'd much rather spend less time teaching or talking about the what and more time talking about why those components are important and how they will change people's lives, how they will help them make forward progress easier and faster. And I think at the end of the day, part of the magic that you're talking about is I spend more time on the why, less time on the what, and it keeps it very simple for people to understand so that when they go to the back of the room and purchase, they know why they're purchasing it and how it's going to help them make forward progress easier and faster.
It's so true, so simple, and it works. And, I think it ties directly into the last question for you, which is all around your non-negotiables. We talked this week about the importance of having your big why, of being clear on, like crystal clear on who you're meant to serve, and crystal clear on what deliverables would make them a success. But I think what's equally important is not just what you're willing to do for your clients, but what you're not willing to do. Protecting and preserving your own lifestyle and the things that are most important to you, your own non-negotiables, so that as your program grows, you don't feel like you're giving up your life. You love your program and you still have a fantastic life. And you and your wife, Amy, and your kids have an amazing family. You have incredible work-life balance, and you're doing incredible good in the world. Can you talk a little bit about how you've set your non-negotiables? And is it hard? I know it must be on some level sometimes to say no to things because they compromise the non-negotiable.
Yeah, for sure. I think you hit the nail on the head, is getting clear on what those are. And in fact, that was one of the first questions I remember you asking me when we started working together. Like, what are your non-negotiables? And then based on that, we plan around accordingly. So for me, like, I have 2 young kids. So one of my friends, Jim Shields, shared when I was early in my fatherhood, he said, at the end of the day, Stu, you have 18 summers with your kids. That was just like a boom, like right between the eyes in terms of it becoming so obvious that this time I have with them is so precious. So yes, I am a driven entrepreneur. I want to succeed. I want to continuously grow, but I also don't want to lose touch with why I'm doing this in the first place. So for me, my family is high priority, and we make sure that those are the big rocks on the calendar first. Our charity, my wife and I also run a charity where we build schools over in Kenya. You guys know because you are a big contributor to that, and we're tremendously grateful for it. But that's a big rock for us as well in terms of like how we raise money for that, and then also like when we raise money for that. And that's been a tough one, to be honest, again, for the same reasons. Yeah. We're driven. There's many opportunities, but at the same time, Amy and I, we never want to be away from the kids more than once a month. And if we're away from the kids more than once a month, the question then becomes, do we say no, or do we bring the kids with us? And sometimes we've said no, and sometimes we bring the kids with us. But it's a non-negotiable for us to be away more than once a month. And it's just these big rocks that help guide your decision-making as it relates to the business, as it relates to the event, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think at the end of the day, like, yes, I would encourage everybody to get clear on those, because just like the culture, it's interwoven into all of the decision-making that we're making. And the other side of it, which I have discovered more in the last couple of years, is just the joy that I get from being with our tribe. And one of the things that has become more and more apparent for me, and a lot of times people think I'm an extrovert, but truth be told, I'm like the extroverted introvert. Like, on stage, I definitely am more extroverted. But off of stage, I'm definitely the guy that's bunkered up in the hotel room, not talking to anybody. I'm the guy that comes into an event that sits at the back, that doesn't talk to anybody. Like that's kind of my natural personality. But the reality of it is the reason I'm sharing this with you is because it's not naturally in my DNA to want to, be out and see everybody. Yeah. But over time, over these last 3 years, what I've discovered is I get tremendous joy from being with our tribe, where it's not like I look at them as like I'm the guru and they're the students and there's like this separation. It's like we've come together, and I love being with them because I love hearing their stories. And similarly, I love our team, seeing them and meeting them, because I get to see them all the time when I travel to different events. But having our team experience the joy of interacting with our clients and customers and hearing their stories, it gives meaning to what we do. And I think more than anything, like that has become one of the non-negotiables, is that we never want to stop our focus on helping our clients get results, because those results are the things that bring joy to our clients, and they're the things that bring joy to us. And we want to create an environment, whether it be in our course, whether it be in our live event, whether it be in our coaching program, that focuses on that one thing of creating results and then just creating a great experience for everybody to help them move forward in what they do. So there's priorities as it relates to the personal side with the family and the charity. And then there's priorities as it relates to the business, which is just focus, a clear hyper focus on helping people get results, because that's what brings the joy for everybody.
I could not have said that better myself. We've been preaching that all week. And, I think it is one of the most important pieces. So often in this world, we talk about time and money freedom, but it's also about having impact. And if you do well, you can do good. And they're all married together. And if you're, so much of what we're talking about tonight is staying true to yourself and your DNA, then growing this incredible business isn't just about survival. It's about thriving and really loving the work you do, loving the team you have. You have an incredible team. And the ripple effect you're having is you're changing your tribe, and then they're changing their tribe, and then your team. I've watched your team change along the way, like the way those people are growing, because they're getting to live their best selves, helping you do this work. It's an incredible gift. It's not just a live event. I always think of it like we're changing the world one attendee at a time.
Totally. And that's just it. That's why for me, it's so rewarding for our team to experience it. And this is why we fly our whole team in from all corners of the world to come to be at the event, because it's that important for them to see and experience the impact and the change that they're having in all these people's lives. And it gives, like I said, it just gives more meaning to what we do. And so at the end of, when we're in the thick of it and we're in the details and the trenches, and like we are now as we're gearing up for the event, like there's 1,000,001 details, 1,000,001 decisions that we're making. But when we're in the thick of that, we're always reminded of why we're doing it, and that it's absolutely worth it 10 times over, because of the joy that comes from our clients experiencing the progress, and from us seeing our clients experience the progress. And ultimately, that's why we do what we do.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing that, your unique perspective and your unique genius with this event just a couple weeks away. I know there's a million things going on over there, so we so appreciate you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today, for sharing your unique perspective, and for inspiring our audience that they can do this too.
Well, I want to thank you, Barry, and I want to just highly recommend you to everybody watching, because there is no way that we would be able to do our events without the guidance, without the strategy and insight, and without the support and help that we've gained from you and Sage, Blue, and the whole team. Because at the end of the day, like, this is a part of the business, and it serves a function for helping us move forward, grow, and do the things that we want to do in the world. And I'm so grateful for it, because, I remember being tentative. I remember being anxious. I remember being scared about a live event. And at the end of the day, it's become one of the most rewarding parts of our business. It's the thing that I love. Like, I'm already thinking about next year. Like, I can't wait to make more money, to be able to invest more money into the event, to add these different types of experiences. I was joking with a customer of mine, because they know that I'm a big Mumford & Sons fan. And they said, one day, Stuart, I'm like, yes, one day. I'm like, can you imagine when we make so much money, we have a private Mumford & Sons concert? Like, that just lights me up. And so for me, it's become such a joy and such an amazing part of the business. And I'm so grateful to you and all of the experience that you have distilled upon us and our team to equip us to be able to do it successfully.
Thank you. That means the world to me. We feel the same way about you. You've changed our lives. We're members of Tribe and Connect, and it's changed our lives too. We cannot thank you enough for the amazing work you're doing in the world, and we're honored that we get to be a part of it. We love you.
Likewise. Thanks, Barry.
3,
Thank you so
2,
much.
1, coming blue.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm live. Yeah, so my wife is watching me going, I can't believe you just did that. All right, so it is Friday night here in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina, and it is kind of late. It's 9 o'clock. We've gone for 2 hours already. Stick with us. We have about another 15 minutes before we finish off, but a couple points that I want to just reiterate from all of the wonderful stuff that Stu just shared about how he grew his event business, or the event side of his business, over the course of the last 3 years. And the one piece that I think is most important for the majority of you, he started with a 20-person event. Yes, this year he's going to have a 900-person event, but his first event was 20 people. Your first event does not have to be big. It does not have to be 50, 100, 250, whatever the number big means to you, it doesn't have to be that. Your first event can be small. It can be 10 to 20 people in an Airbnb over the course of 3 days, going through the structure that Barry taught you today, delivering amazing content, providing a high-ticket offer, and seeing massive conversion because of the intimacy of a small room. And you get comfortable with your messaging. You get comfortable in front of a room. In large part, that 20-person meeting was the foundation for everything that Stu now does in that business that generates $5, $6, $7, $8 million a year, right? So it's a great place to start. Now, Barry, I've got a couple of questions. First off, we've gotten some great feedback from tonight's session. A lot of people just mind blown. You are fantastic. Let's see, we have, guest 4219, I'm sorry, I don't know your name because it said guest 4219, said, have a drink for me, and they can wait on the PDF. So cheers.
Now that he has permission,
Exactly.
it's done. That's going to happen tomorrow
The
now.
clients, the people watching said I should do it, so that's the way
They're
it is.
very supportive people.
Celeste said, oh my God, solid gold. That was when you were drawing on the iPad. She was probably not
So
talking about
pretty.
the artistic skills. She was talking about the amazing content in there. She also said that, Barry, you are a first responder in
I am.
regards to the elevator. The one thing I will tell you, Celeste, is where Barry is not a first responder, it took me over a year.
For you to enroll me, you had to work on your enrollment.
Exactly. My
conversation.
enrollment skills are not what they are today at that point. It took a year for me to get her to say yes to herself and spend some time with me for the rest of her life. Okay, so... So really, really quickly, we have had Priscilla email in a couple of great questions that I think apply to the majority of the people watching. The first question was, to start an event like a small one, like that 20-person intimate event, should it be a free event? Should it be a paid event? What are our thoughts? And my thoughts in general are it depends on your audience, right? And it also depends on what your end result goal is. If you're going to do a multi-day event and it's people you know and it's more of a beta test, I would go super low ticket. Make it
But not free necessarily.
not free, but super low ticket.
We're not huge fans of free.
No, never free. There's
because
value.
it undervalues your work. So even, $27, I love $47 for that kind of event. It's very affordable. Lets them know there's real value. It lets you know they're actually coming generally. And even when we talk about a free ticket, let's say you do a launch and you have a product and it comes with a free ticket to your live event, we coach all of our clients to charge a refundable deposit of $197. A $97 we found is not enough. $297 is too much. The sweet spot is $197. And what I mean by refundable is we basically position it as claim your space with a $197 refundable deposit, and we position it so that we know you're coming. We're going to plan for you, have all the da-da-da for you, whatever the deliverables are. And then when you show up on site and register, we will reward you for showing up and honoring your commitment by giving you your deposit back. Yeah. And it's great because at $197, half the people forgot they spent it. When they show up, they get a check for $197. It's like found money. And it shows reciprocity, right? They honored their commitment. You gave them the money back. If they don't honor their commitment, they lose it. So it's the best way to reduce your no-show rate.
Yeah, it's part of filling the room, right? A good part of what we're going to be talking about on Monday. Yeah. And then we dive a little bit deeper, actually a lot deeper in the course, which is how to fill your room. And then not only how to fill your room, how to sell those tickets, but also how to make sure that those people that you sold then show up at your live event. I think the bottom line,
but if you're just starting out, like remember Fabienne talked about having the cooking class and like 6 people in her apartment in New York. She charged for that. Yep. It wasn't free. Even though it was 6 people.
But it also wasn't high ticket, right? It wasn't Correct. Like a Tony Robbins where it's a $3,000 for the 4 days or something along those lines. Yeah. I would go relatively low cost, but not free. The second question was, I don't have a high ticket offer as of yet. I'm just getting started. Should I have something in mind before planning or hosting my first live event? I'm going to give you the short answer, and then Barry's going to tell you why.
Barry's going to give you the long answer.
Well, not the long answer. The short answer is yes, absolutely. You want to have a hot ticket offer in mind. Because remember what we talked about? We talked about building your event with the end in mind, right? And the end in mind is the result that you want for your clients. And while 3 days can be transformational, a whole year is really where the transformation takes place. 3 days are just a taste of that transformation, and then working with you over the course of the following 12 months through your high ticket offer is where the real transformation takes place. Do you have anything to add? Boom! Like, boom. Mic drop. Look at that. All right, so and then Celeste had 2 really quick questions that I think are great and probably a good extension of the stuff that you taught today. You mentioned a VIP program, especially when we talk about our 3-day events, and Celeste wanted to know if she should be offering a VIP program in a 1-day. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, the short answer is no. You can do it, but a 1-day already is very compressed. And there's not a tremendous amount of value to just that 1 day, that extra time with you. I would sooner say, have your audience, if you want to do a lunch of some kind, then make your event a little bit more expensive and include lunch. I wouldn't separate out with a VIP day or with a VIP program for just a 1-day event. That's my opinion. Barry, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there may be exceptions to that. Like, let's say we have a client who started doing 1-days, like kind of as a road tour, and she had a big list, and she was attracting like 1,000 people, and so she would have a VIP upgrade where they could have lunch with her. In that case, it made sense because it was like a lunch for 1/3 of the crowd for 300 people. They were her top buyers. So there are exceptions to that, but Celeste, for you, because you're just starting out, I think that's biting off more than you can chew. I keep it simple and streamlined, and really keep that community, right? You want to keep them together as much as you possibly can, and in this case, you don't actually want to separate them from the herd. It's better for them to be together.
Right.
Yeah.
And Celeste had one more question that I think is really good, and it's a clarifying question on the that 3-day program that you drew out, that wonderful piece of art. I'm going to export that as a PDF. We may just send that off to everybody.
Blow it up and frame it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. As a bonus for those of you that join the program, we'll send you a laminated version of Barry's art. I'm kidding. Maybe. Her question was, on the 2nd day, do you have an opening session? And yes, but not in the same way. The way Barry defined the opening session for a 3-day event is really a reminder of why people came, right? There's the host story, who I am, what you're going to get out of the next 3 days, and a little bit of just setting the tone. Now, on day 2, that tone is already set, so the opening is compressed. And we like to do the opening as the opening that you're going to do include some ahas, a little bit of questions from the audience to get them re-engaged, get them re-enrolled in what it was that they got out of day one. Remind them how amazing yesterday was. Remind them of that content, connection, and community. So the opening segment for day one isn't the full session, it's a small portion of that session. So there's your answer there. And Barry Baumgartner, I'm going to throw it back to you. There is one question that I'd love for you to address. And again, this is guest 994. I don't have a name.
I love the numbers.
Right? Isn't that awesome? What if you're just starting out and for your panel, because you're just starting out, you don't have paying clients for the product or service you're offering? What do you do in that scenario? And I have a couple thoughts. But
do you want to? So as a starting point, it doesn't have to be paying clients for the program that you're offering. It might be clients who have worked with you. What the real testimony is that they've done work with you and you've gotten them results. So let's say we've had this happen before, actually, where a client's introducing a brand new program, but they've already done preliminary work in other ways. So we'll have people come up, and it's not a bait and switch. We're not going to have them come and pretend that they did a program. We're usually announcing a new program as we have something brand new for you. So we're being really upfront about that. That's part of kind of this. Stu, actually, we use this for him that you just met. Founders Club is very popular in our industry, where it's essentially you're coming in on the ground floor. You're part of a rarefied group that will never happen again. You're going to be our first group in this new program. So I think you can be really upfront that it's new, but people are coming in and talking about how it is to work with you. And then, let's say you have a really small number of people. It could be positioned as case studies also. You also can talk about the work you do. Like if you're really newbie and you're starting, let's say you're doing your first event, it's 20 people and you don't have paying clients. This is going to be how you get paying clients. Then I wouldn't force a panel or pretend a panel. I would talk more about the work you do, the results that you get, the program itself. You get more into invitation and less into panel. In fact, you may not even have a panel. Yeah.
Awesome.
What would you add to that?
I actually wouldn't add anything.
Yeah.
Everything that you just said is exactly what I had in my head.
The key is never pretend something. Like audiences can really sniff that out. And so I'm always really skeptical of that. I'd rather be really creative or say, what's really interesting is that for years I've been doing da-da-da-da-da-da. And now for the first time, I'm offering this new thing. And I'm super excited about it because I know in my own business, these are the results I've created. And now I can do that for other people. Use yourself, basically, as your best case study.
Something that we've seen people do when they're offering a brand new product or service, and they're just starting out, and we've coached them through this, is if you have people that you've worked with, even if it's people that you've worked with for free, right? Maybe friends that you've given this advice to, you can still enroll them in being part of a panel that just speaks to the methodology that you're teaching. Not necessarily speaks directly to working with you, but like, let's say in our case as an example, we could speak to people about having successful live events and how awesome that is, even if we hadn't worked with them, right? In the case of the case studies that you're hearing from us, anyway, over the course of this workshop, they're all people that we work with. But if we didn't have anybody that we worked with, we could interview people who had hosted successful live events and implemented them in their business to enroll you in the idea of having a live event.
I love that. That's great. That's a winner. I love that answer. And if you're giving yourself the proper runway and you're introducing your first program, you can actually, once you've done the big why exercise, you're clear on your offer, go out there and start beta testing that for free or for a really low cost to get to that point Blue was just talking about. So it gives you kind of an opportunity. Go to friends and say, hey, I'm trying something new. I think you'd find value from this. I'm going to give it to you free of charge or at this super low cost. It's going to be $1,000, $3,000, whatever it is. I'm going to let you do it for this price point. And I'd love to get your feedback. I'm giving you the special discount as a beta test. I want to make sure all of this works. So you can word it better than that, but
It's late in the day.
It is late in the day.
Yeah. All right, I've got one more question.
Yes.
And Leo Pacheco, who's been with us
we
all
love
3 days.
Leo.
Yep, absolutely. Me too. I actually answered an email from him earlier today. This may be premature, but on a high ticket offer, 5,000 plus, what do you recommend for a payment plan? Break it up into 2, 3, 4 payments. What do you recommend? So the first thing that I said to Leo, because he asked this question via email as well, was that yes, you should offer a payment plan. And second, what payment plan you offer sometimes is dictated by the cost
It really is.
of the program. Sometimes it's dictated by your audience. And sometimes it's just dictated by you, right? We have some clients who want to make sure that they get an influx of cash. So they offer a significant discount on a pay in full and then do a limited payment plan. So there are a lot of nuances. to how to
and
do
like we
this.
have a client that you're going to meet on Monday night who did an immersion experience instead of a mastermind or a group program. It was an immersion retreat, fully paid in the Dominican Republic. So when you bought in, you got some pre-calls, but the real value was 7 days in the Dominican Republic at an all-inclusive resort where you got like kind of a done with you, done for you product creation. And the key there was that it had to be paid before you got there for obvious reasons. You're incurring a good amount of cost before you get there. And then some of the deliverables were on the back end, but everything had to be paid before you got to that actual experience. So you really do have to think about all those elements Blue's talking about. And if it's like $5,000, it might be a 3-pay. If it's a $25,000, I'd recommend it be a 12-pay. So it very much is related to the length of the program, the depth of the work you're doing, the market you're serving, the length of time that you think they need to generate real success. Think back to raving fans. We actually, I won't say who the client is, but we had someone come to us and he had an amazing event and he sold a 6-month program. And he said, I extended it 3 months because people were complaining and they weren't getting results. And I said, at that price point and for the transformation you're trying to create, you need a year. 6 months just isn't enough to get the work done. And so sometimes it takes a little bit of beta testing to figure that out. But in my experience for high ticket offer, if you're trying to create real transformation, it's typically a year-long program. Because if you think about it, by the time you onboard them, figure out their issues, start doing a deep dive, that's the first quarter. Have your retreat or have some kind of experience, get them doing the work, then they get the results, and then they have time to, kind of thump their chest about the results. That's a year. Like each of those things is a quarter. So I very rarely see a 3-month program, a 6-month program work. Big fans of 1-year programs if they're high ticket offers. It can be less than that if you're on the lower end of the spectrum, like in that 5,000 and below.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So again, we ran a little bit longer than we
I
anticipated
know, it's
tonight.
been a long, and a Friday, no less. So thank you guys for sticking with us.
For sure.
Are we going to do a quick recap?
Yeah, I think we do a quick recap, and also don't hesitate to keep asking questions, right? Just because we are wrapping up the stream, I don't want you to stop the questions from coming. Keep posting them in the chat, any questions that you have from tonight's content that didn't get answered. And Barry and I will make sure that we take time either to answer them in the chat tonight or over the weekend,
Possibly
or we'll
from
address
the
them,
beach.
Possibly from the beach.
Tomorrow.
Or we'll address them on Monday at the beginning of the broadcast. So we're going to make sure that you get all your questions answered. I want to make sure that you're fully supported and fully taken care of. So please don't stop answering questions or asking questions, even though we're not going to answer them right now.
Excellent. Love that. Okay, so let's do a quick recap and then we're going to send you off to your Friday night festivities. So just to recap, now that we know the high level 3x3 PAG and the elements that you need to design your high ticket offer, which is the Big Y exercise, the elements that you need to design a 3-day or a 1-day, which is all the work I did here on the iPad, and how you're going to overcome objections at the back of the room, you might be thinking, what's your next step? What do I do next? So I like to think of it as first the how. Here's how to figure out your next steps. So if you have done an event already, you've already got an event under your belt and you're looking for more leverage, to me, it's a no-brainer to do a 3-day, no matter what size. You have a business, you're a coach, a service provider, a consultant, you're working one-to-one, you have clients, you want more, you only have so much time. You will need instant leverage, also no-brainer, 3-day live event, no matter what size. If you have no business, no product, and you want time and money freedom, I really think a 1-day can serve you well, or a small 3-day. 1 day is if you're like, I truly can't imagine developing the content for 3 days or even holding the stage for 3 days. So kind of building my event muscle, my stage muscle, then you might need to stick with the 1 day. But if you feel more confident, then I'm always a fan of a 3-day. I think a 3-day is always going to perform better than a 1-day, and especially if you're going to go in that offer range of 5,000 and above. And again, I just can't stress this enough. It's why we wanted you to meet Stu. You can absolutely get started with a 3-day for 20 people, for 10 people, for 25 people. It doesn't have to be huge. So the next piece is the why. This is why it's worth it, because you might be thinking, man, now that I see all this, it does seem like a lot of work. And it is, but here's the thing. If you want time and money freedom, and you want more impact than you ever thought possible, more easily than you ever thought possible, without being salesy or sacrificing service, it's what drives me, and I'm guessing it's what drives you too, is that time and money freedom. I'm telling you, it's absolutely worth it to invest in this model. There's no faster, easier way to connect with your people, to provide an amazing service, to create raving fans, and to be a game changer and having impact with your people, but also completely changing your life. The when, I'm guessing you're probably thinking about, when should I be doing this? And I can't say this enough either. If not you, who? If not now, when? I mean, we said this from the beginning. It's not a magic wand. You do have to do the work. But everything I taught tonight is in the live event blueprint we're going to give you. It's the highest level overview of my work since I first started this business in 2004. And we're going to give you that downloadable PDF. You can dig into the details. You can start to fill it out yourself. But here's the action I most want you to take. Put it on the calendar. Like today, get out your calendar and circle a date or plug it in and say, this is what I'm doing my 1 day. This is what I'm doing my 3 day. It just takes that commitment. I know it's a lot. And for some of you, it's considerably huge. It feels considerably huge. So now I just want you to take a deep breath and really focus on the end game. What is your Paris, that goal that we talked about on the very first training Monday, which seems like ages ago. And hear me, you don't have to know it all. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to do it all at once. Right? Inhale, exhale. You just have to take the first step. You have to commit to the first action and then the next and then the next. Even if you're getting ready to scale your live event, you've been doing them, but you want to be considerably huger, right? I'm not sure that's a word, but considerably huger. You know what I mean? You're here and you're Stu. You started here, but you have a big vision to get here. I know it can feel overwhelming, but you start by taking action. And at Sage, we say this to our clients all the time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's what we've been trying to do here with you this week, one bite at a time. So if you remember back to the first video, let's just recap some of the lessons. You don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't have to overthink it. You just have to trust the process. I promise you, it's proven, it's time tested, and it works. Just follow the structure and the strategy. You don't have to do it all. Even our most advanced clients don't implement all of our monetization strategies all at once. But what all of them do, what is the same of all of our client successes, is their willingness to take action in different markets, in different niches, in different countries, in different languages. It's worked for people who are just getting started, people who are selling one-to-one, and people who are trying to grow their one-to-many business or leverage their existing live events. It works for hosts like Jeff Walker and Dean Graziosi and Russell Brunson, who had considerably large live events. They knew they were leaving money on the table, and they were not having as much impact as they knew they could. In fact, you're going to hear from Russell on Monday. He's going to share his story with you about how we leveraged his live event, Funnel Hacking Live, and it was already a big success when we took them on. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of my first ever live training workshop, and sharing this with you this week has been an amazing experience for me and for Blue and for the team. And you have touched me so much with your questions and with your honesty, with your vulnerability, and with your visions for dreaming bigger. And I just want to thank you for your comments. I can't tell you how much that's infused my energy this week and kept me going, and it really allowed me to have the impact that I'm trying to have. It just gave me a little inkling of the tip of the iceberg. It's just the beginning of what we can do. If you have loved what you heard this week and you've been inspired to embrace the lifestyle and the freedom and the impact that live events can afford you, I really hope you'll join me on Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be tackling one of your biggest fears. It was the most overwhelming question we got in separate emails and in comments, which is filling the room. We're going to introduce you to someone who conquered his fear of speaking on the stage in order to have greater impact in the market he loves. And it all started with the ticket map that we're going to share with you. And I'm going to tell you more about how you can get started in my first ever course that's going to be sharing all the behind the scenes secrets that we use to create our 6 and 7 and 8 figure client success stories. We generally spend 6 months to a year preparing our clients, and we're holding nothing back in the course we've created for you to use the very same tools and the very same strategies in far less time. So if you think you might be ready to join me, I'm going to be opening up my very first class in just a few days. And I would love for you to join me. This is the way it works. It's sort of like a college class. I'm going to open registration, we're going to enroll a new class, and we close registration so we can start the class all together, all at the same time. So join me Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. It's all about you moving forward, details on the class, and how you get started. In the meantime, I would love to hear about your live event path. What does your path forward look like? Scroll down, leave me a comment, hit the like button, but most important, leave me a comment. I've been reading every single comment, dozens of them, and I would love to hear from you. I'll see you on Monday in the next training. Thanks for joining us.